Chapter 1223. When it opens, you can come and try. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have to join the true martial pavilion. Otherwise, you can only become the chief disciple of other pavilions. Let's go. Tan Lin Hai led the group up the stairs. Although the true martial path had not opened, the mysterious aura it contained still shocked Chun Hao and the others. What was more amazing was that every time they climbed up the stairs, it was as if they had entered a new world. The feeling was ever-changing, as if they were tasting all kinds of wine in the world. It was novel and intoxicating. Wan Yishui, who was only half a step behind Tan Lin Hai, was obviously very surprised. When she came here before, although she also had this feeling, it was definitely not so clear and wonderful, but when she received Tan Lin Hai's sound transmission, she understood what was going on. This was the pavilion master deliberately increasing the aura of the true martial path, so that Fatty, Ling Feng, Ao, Qian, Shuefian, and the others would have a deeper understanding of the true martial path. It was used to attract people to join the true martial pavilion. At full speed, they could pass through the true martial path in an instant, but it took them a full hour to pass through it. Even so, they still looked like they wanted to continue. However, they were soon attracted by the scenery at the peak. Strange flowers and herbs were everywhere. Divine fruits and divine trees stood among them. There were also waterfalls, springs, pavilions, and pavilions. It was too beautiful to be taken in. At the core of the peak, 9 layers of celestial light enveloped the hall. Greetings, Pavilion Master. Tan Lin Hai cupped his fists toward the hall from afar. Hearing Tan Lin Hai's words, everyone hurriedly gathered their thoughts and cheered themselves up. They looked in the direction of the hall in the middle. The Pavilion Master of the true martial pavilion was a real, true immortal king. Although Ling Feng, Shuefian, Ao Qian, and the others had seen him before, they did not dare to act rashly at this moment. Chun Hao and Xixian did not dare to act rashly. Chun Hao was slightly better. After all, when he was in the chaotic Great Thousand World, he could be considered to have seen a true immortal king. In addition, in the second level of the ancient chaos void, he could be considered to have come into contact with a true immortal king. Although it was a remnant divine, that had lost most of its power after hundreds of millions of years, it still had the aura of a true immortal king. Xixian was a little nervous. Firstly, Xixian had never seen a true celestial king before. Secondly, it was all thanks to Chun Hao that Xixian had been summoned by the Pavilion Master. She was very clear about this. There's no need to be so courteous. Not bad at all. I didn't expect all of you to be here. Come in. However, what Chun Hao, Xixian, and the others didn't expect was that the voice that drifted out from the palace was actually extremely calm. It didn't have the slightest majesty of an immortal king, and it gave them the feeling that it was a senior that couldn't wait to see them. Chi 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 chi. While the crowd was still immersed in astonishment, a brilliant, immortal glow was emitted from the entrance of the palace following the voice of the master of the pagoda. It encapsulated the crowd. Following it, Chun Hao and the others found themselves inside the palace without noticing anything. What was even more miraculous was that Chun Hao and Xixian discovered that Ling Feng, Ao, Qian, and the others had disappeared from their side. Instead, they saw an old man sitting cross-legged in front of them, sizing them up with a smile. The old man didn't have the demeanor of a transcendent being that they had imagined. He looked very ordinary, and there wasn't any powerful aura emanating from his body. Ordinary, really too ordinary. However, it was precisely because the two of them felt that the old man was too ordinary that they could tell that he wasn't ordinary. This was especially true when the old man's smiling eyes clearly didn't contain any energy or divine ability laws. However, Chun Hao and Xixian felt as if they had been seen through. The Pavilion Master of the true martial pavilion, who was carefully sizing up Chun Hao and Xixian, suddenly stopped smiling. He frowned slightly, and then 2 brilliant rays of light suddenly shot out from his emotionless eyes and landed on Chun Hao and Xixian. He looked slightly surprised. Disciple Li Yuan greets the Pavilion Master. Chun Hao, who felt uncomfortable all over, immediately cupped his fists and bowed. Disciple Chun Hao greets the pavilion master. Xi followed Chun Hao and bowed. Li Yuan, Chun Hao. The pavilion master of the true martial pavilion nodded slightly and repeated Chun Hao and Xi pseudonyms. He shook his head slightly and continued. The two of you really surprised old man. Pavilion master, you flatter us. It's not flattery. If he didn't see you with his own eyes, old man wouldn't have noticed. Pavilion master, what do you mean? Chun Hao frowned slightly. Although his expression was calm, he was directly shocked by the pavilion master's words. Could it be that he had discovered his disguise? Under normal circumstances, true immortal kings wouldn't be able to see through the ultimate form of the Great Change technique. Even existences beyond true immortal kings wouldn't be able to discover it easily. However, why did the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion seem to have discovered something when he saw him and Xi Xian? 9 Lives mystic technique, others may not be able to sense it, but old man is most familiar with it. Old man is also receiving Ling Feng, Ao, Qian, Xue Fian, and the others who came with you. And they're all real. Chun Hao and Xi Xian were shocked at the same time. Don't be surprised. When old man was young, he coincidentally obtained half of the mental cultivation method of the 9 Lives mystic technique, which allowed him to achieve the achievement of true immortal king. Although old man only got the second half. This is the unique technique created by the Celestial River King. The Celestial River King left a total of 9,999 places of inheritance in the great world of CND and many other worlds. There are also many people who have obtained the complete inheritance. Anyone who can obtain the complete inheritance can directly join the Celestial River King's family, the Shao family, and become a disciple of the Shao family. I didn't expect that it would appear in your chaotic world. Chen Si obtained the complete inheritance, right? The pavilion master of the true martial pavilion said. In the information obtained by the pavilion master of the real martial pavilion, although Chun Hao and Xi Xian were outsiders who hid their true identities, Tan Linhai had already said that Chun Hao and Xi Xian were from the chaotic colossal world when he recommended them to him. Both Chun Hao and Xi Xian were shocked beyond words. For a moment, they did not know how to answer the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion. The 9 Lives mystic technique, the Galaxy King, the Shao clan. Although Yilan did not tell them anything about the master of the Shao clan's ancestor in the immortal emperor Great Thousand World and the ancient chaos Great Thousand World, and which force it was, when they heard the pavilion master's words, they instantly thought of the master of the Shao clan's ancestor. Pavilion master, can you tell us who the Celestial River King is first? Is he very powerful? How can he leave his inheritance in other worlds? Chun Hao was stunned for a moment, then looked at the pavilion master and asked directly, Little fatty, you don't know the Celestial River King? I don't know. Xi Xian and I have just stepped into the great world of CND, and we came secretly before, so our understanding of the great world of CND is very limited. The fatty scratched his head awkwardly. Chapter 1224. That's true. Then, old man will explain it to you. Star River King, Shao Xinghe, was one of the 8 great king-level powerhouses hundreds of millions of years ago. His battle prowess was unparalleled throughout the ages. He could be said to be the strongest person in the great world of CND. Don't you think he's powerful? It is said that Star River King has never tasted defeat since he stepped into the cultivation world. All the cultivators in the great world of CND think that Star River King is the most promising person to become an immortal emperor. Nowadays, although Star River King rarely shows up, it is said that he has already reached the quasi-emperor realm. Powerful, really powerful. Of course, which of the 8 great king-level powerhouses wasn't an amazing talent? Unfortunately, there can only be one person on the path to becoming an immortal emperor. Up to now, only Star River King and King Ying are still alive. Wind King, Power King, Sword King, and the other 6 great king-level powerhouses have disappeared for many years. It is said that it was done by Star River King. Only King Ing stayed because the Star River King and King Ing were childhood sweethearts. Moreover, although King Ying's battle prowess is not as good as Star River King's, it is impossible for Star River King to attack King Ing. Everyone in the world knows that King Ing is Star River King's favorite. The two should be a match made in heaven. But what is strange is that King Ing is still unwilling to be together with his childhood sweetheart, Star River King. Cough, old man said too much. There is no other way. This is something that all the cultivators in the great world of C&D are curious about. There are also rumors that it is related to the ancient Chaos world. This is also the reason why Star River King ordered the ancient Chaos world to be a forbidden area. As for the cultivators of the ancient Chaos boundless world, hundreds of millions of years ago, they were most famous for ahem. Why did I mention this again? Well, as for your question about how the Celestial River King could leave behind an inheritance in another boundless world, it is even simpler. Star River King is now the strongest person in the great world of C&D. Where can he not go? What's more, there are cultivators from other worlds who are willing to take him there. When the Pavilion Master of the True Martial Pavilion talked about the Celestial River King, he could not help but talk about the biggest regret of the Celestial River King's life. Or rather, it was incomplete. Until now, he had not been able to be together with Prince Ing and the rumors about the ancient Chaos boundless world. In fact, the cultivators of the great world of C&D, as long as they mentioned the Star River King, would think of the 8 great emperors and talk about King Ing and the Star River King. Naturally, they would also talk about the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World that was sealed as a forbidden area by the Star River King, as well as someone who came from the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World. However, the Pavilion Master of the True Martial Pavilion had no idea how excited Chun Hao and Si Xian were after hearing his words, especially Si Xian, who was Prince Ing, even though Yilan had never mentioned it to her, as Yilan's only disciple who was treated like a daughter. And having followed Yilan for so many years, how could Si Xian possibly be unfamiliar with the wording? In Yilan's cultivation room, Yilan's bedroom, and so on, as long as it was her master's private space, the wording could be seen everywhere. It was just that Si Xian did not know the meaning of this word in Yilan's heart. Now, hearing the words of the Pavilion Master of the True Martial Pavilion, Si Xian vaguely guessed a possibility. Then there was the most famous cultivator from the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World hundreds of millions of years ago in the great world of C&D. Who could it be? Yilan. Almost immediately, Chun Hao and Si Xian guessed that it was Yilan. They just needed to confirm it. Oh, I see. Pavilion Master, who was the most famous cultivator from the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World hundreds of millions of years ago. I heard my master mention that when he was in the great world of C&D, he was once saved by an expert from the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World, called Yilan. Chun Hao hesitated for a moment, and then threw out the information he had obtained in the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World. Little fatty, you're right. It's Yilan. Back then, Yilan's combat strength, talent, and potential could be said to be famous in the great world of C&D. Before the 8 great regal experts were crowned as regal kings, Yilan had interacted with them, especially King Ing and King Fengling, who had cultivated an experience with Yilan for more than 1,000,000 years. Before Yilan and the 8 great regal experts were crowned as regal kings, his fame was only second to the Star River King, and he was considered the strongest competitor on the path to becoming an immortal emperor. However, before Yilan stepped into the true immortal king realm, he disappeared without a trace. After that, the Star River King ordered the killing of all cultivators from the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World and listed the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World as a forbidden area, and no cultivators were allowed to approach it. The great world of C&D also became a forbidden area for cultivators from the ancient Chaos Great Thousand World. No one knew the specific reason for this secret, except for King Fengling and the others who had died or escaped from the great world of C&D. I didn't expect your master to know Yilan. It seems that your master is not simple. The Pavilion Master of the True Martial Pavilion said in surprise. Pavilion Master, you flatter me. My master is only at the sixth heaven of the cutting Tao, true immortal realm, and is far inferior to you. Did your master mention anything else about Yilan to you? That's not true. Back then, when master was talking to me about who he owed in his life, he mentioned that Yilan saved his life in the immortal emperor's great thousand world. Chun Hao said, and then glanced at Si Xian imperceptibly, and continued, Pavilion Master, of the 8 great king-level experts, are there only the Star River King and King Ying now? Yes, there are only the Star River King and King Ying in the great world of CND. However, it can also be said that, even if King Feng Ling, Saber King, Sword King, and the others are still alive, I'm afraid they won't come to the great world of CND again, or they don't have the ability to come, or they will travel the endless starry sky to find other immortal paths. The winner takes all. The Star River King is already a quasi-emperor. Then what about King Ying? He's also very strong, isn't he? I don't know if he has advanced to the quasi-emperor level. I only know that he is very strong. The Jade Maiden Palace, founded by King Ying, sends envoys to the final round of the Academy ranking competition every 1,000 years to select genius disciples. Every time, they will select women who are top-notch in appearance, figure, aptitude, and have the immortal bloodline. The Jade Maiden Palace is the only force in the great world of CND that can challenge the Shao family. First, the disciples of the Jade Maiden Palace are indeed very strong and very large. What is more amazing is that the Jade Maiden Palace has established many bases in the endless chaotic space. Although I don't understand the significance of the Jade Maiden Palace doing this, but the strength to establish a base in the depths of the chaotic space is shocking. Secondly, in today's world, the only one who dares to challenge the Shao clan, which is to say, challenge the Star River King, is Prince Ying. Unfortunately, Prince Ying has not appeared in the world of cultivation for a long, long time. Jade Maiden Palace. Pavilion Master, is it mysterious? Chen Hao asked. The Pavilion Master of the true martial pavilion was a little surprised by the fatty's question, shook his head slightly, and said, It's the Jade of the Jade Pearl Acupoint. Why, little fatty, are you interested in the Jade Maiden Palace? Unfortunately, the Jade Maiden Palace only recruits women. Chapter 1225. I'm just a little interested in the disciples of the Jade Maiden Palace. Cece has the immortal bloodline, but it's not very pure. You little fatty. Chen Si does indeed have the immortal bloodline, so it doesn't matter if it's pure or not. As long as she has the aura of the immortal bloodline, she meets the basic condition of the Jade Maiden Palace. In the future, Chun Si still has a great chance. The old man can feel that your original body has not fully integrated with the second life. Otherwise, even if the old man cultivates the 9 lives profound technique, it would be difficult to detect. Secondly, your original body in the second life shouldn't have relied on any elixirs to cultivate step by step, right? You should have obtained the complete inheritance of the 9 lives profound technique, because your integration is much better than the old man's. It will be better in the future. Not to mention how many more you can condense. Just now, your original body and the second life have fully integrated. Maybe there's hope for you to be chosen by the Jade Maiden Palace. Of course, if you obtain the complete inheritance of the 9 lives profound technique, you can directly join the Shao family, which is stronger than the Jade Maiden Palace. Of course, this is all in the future. The old man wants to know, little fatty, have you cultivated the 9 lives profound technique? Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. He originally thought that the old man had also sensed that he cultivated the 9 lives profound technique, but now it seemed that he had overestimated the old man's eyesight. At the same time, Chun Hao understood that the camouflage ability of the Great Change technique was indeed extraordinary. No, my Daluo Golden Wonderland hasn't been truly perfected. How can I be in the mood to cultivate the 9 lives? Besides, I don't have the patience. The most important thing is to quickly improve my realm, the fatty said firmly. Well, that's true. With your talent and potential, you really don't need to rely on the 9 lives profound technique. To put it bluntly, The 9 Lives Profound technique is just a disguised way to delay one's lifespan and increase one's experience and comprehension. If one's aptitude and comprehension exceed the limit that the 9 Lives Profound technique can bring, it is completely meaningless. All right, since we talked so much, let's get down to business. All of you have already seen the competition between the 10 pavilions of Dahua Academy. Especially for a top genius like you, little fatty, you will definitely cause a lot of competition. The fact that Chun-Si possessed the 9 Lives Profound technique had not been exposed. If others knew about it, it would naturally cause a scramble. After all, it meant that Chun-Si could become a disciple of the Celestial River King in the future. What's more, Chun-Si also had the immortal bloodline. The old man will make this short and straightforward. Being able to recruit the two of you is a kind of fate in itself. The old man hopes that the two of you will choose the true martial pavilion. The pavilion master of the true martial pavilion's gaze paused on Shan Hao and Si Xian's faces for a moment before he continued. Because the treatment system of Dahua Academy is jointly set by the headmaster, vice headmaster, elders, as well as the pavilion masters and vice pavilion masters of the 10 great pavilions. This old man and the other pavilion masters of the other pavilions are unable to give you any more benefits in terms of treatment. The only thing we can do is to give you special abilities and absolute arts. I dare not guarantee anything else, but the old man can guarantee that as long as you can learn something, I can teach it to you. In terms of cultivation, if there is anything you do not understand, you can look for the old man at any time. Of course, if I can give you this condition, the other pavilion masters can do the same. In the end, it is up to you to choose. If you are willing to be a direct disciple, the old man naturally has no problem. I can also give you magic treasures. But the old man has always believed that the fate of a master and disciple is exchanged for benefits. It is meaningless. If you have any ideas, you can say it. This, Pavilion Master, what ideas can we have? If it wasn't for the fact that Pavilion Master took a fancy to us and recruited us, we would already be disciples of a second-rate academy. This fatty, don't have any other merits, but I can still distinguish between gratitude and grudges. Moreover, just like Pavilion Master said, being specially recruited by the Pavilion Master is also a kind of fate. So, Pavilion Master, you don't have to worry. No matter what kind of temptation, the two of us will become disciples of the true martial pavilion. Chun Hao seemed to not even hesitate as he directly patted his chest and spoke with a strong sense of righteousness. Good. I didn't expect a little fatty like you to be so straightforward. You are very kind. Chun-Si, what about you? The pavilion master of the true martial pavilion comforted him, but when he saw Chun-Si's expression, he asked again. Pavilion master, I naturally listen to the fatty, but... Pavilion master, you know my secret. Can my treatment, you can rest assured. After the allocation in the Great Transformation Hall is completed, the old man will report your situation to the dean. The basic treatment is definitely the best in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. The pavilion master of the true martial pavilion said with great certainty. Si Xian had the 9 Lives Profound technique. In his view, she had obtained the complete 9 Lives inheritance of the Star River King. Based on this alone, as long as he reported it to the dean, Si Xian's treatment would be doubled. After all, she was a character who could join the Shao clan in the future. Secondly, Si Xian, who had the 9 Lives Profound technique, would become very strong after integration in the future. She also had the basic requirement of the Jade Maiden Palace to recruit disciples, immortal bloodline. In addition, Si Xian's appearance and figure were naturally up to standard. Although her talent and potential looked poor now, in his view, it was definitely the temporary influence of the 9 Lives Profound technique. Otherwise, how could she be qualified to obtain the 9 Lives inheritance of the Star River King? What the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion did not know was that Si Xian had nothing to do with the Star River King's inheritance, and it was impossible for her to join the Shao clan. He had only obtained half of the cultivation method by chance. What he did not know was that all cultivators who had obtained the complete 9 Lives inheritance of the Star River King would choose to go to the Shao clan directly. Whether he was interested in the Star River King or the Shao clan before, you would become interested. Of course, it was not only the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion who did not know this. To be exact, no one in the great world of CND knew. Even if someone found a clue, they would not doubt the number one person in the great world of CND. In that case, many thanks to the pavilion master. Xian smiled, showing a trace of pride intentionally or unintentionally, and glanced at Chun Hao. The fat man shrugged indifferently and said, "Pavilion master, do you want to sign the agreement now? It would be good to sign it, but let's sign it later in the Great Hall. You can also listen to the conditions of the other party. For you, for them, and for the old man, it can be regarded as fair and just, lest they suspect that the old man has given you some bewitching potion. To put it bluntly, the only advantage of the old man is to let you feel the true martial great Tao first. Well, you can walk around the secret realm of the old man. The mysteries of the true martial great Tao are contained in it. Although it has not been activated, you can more or less feel its subtleties. When the time comes, Lin Hai will send you to the Great Hall. Asterisk voila. Asterisk as soon as the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion finished speaking, the surrounding space fluctuated, and Chun Hao and Xian appeared in the so-called secret realm of the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion. For Chun Hao and Xian, it was definitely the strongest immortal realm they had ever seen. Chapter 1226. Ao Qian, Ling Feng, the Bloodbath Squad, Xue Fian, Wan Yixue, and the others were all present. Obviously, they had finished their discussion earlier than Chun Hao and Xian. Moreover, their eyes were shining brightly, and they were comprehending by themselves in this small secret realm. They didn't even notice Chun Hao and Xian's arrival, and all of them seemed to be immersed in a subtle state of comprehension. The secret realm of the true martial great path. It's only 1,000 miles wide, but the law of Tao Mark and the spiritual qi of heaven and earth are extraordinary. Xian, no way. Chun Hao exclaimed as he sensed the mysterious aura and thick spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the secret realm. However, before he could finish his sentence, Xian, who was next to him, had turned into the same state as Ao, Qian, and the others. She began to walk forward slowly and immersed herself in a certain state. To put it bluntly, it was as if she had lost her soul. So amazing. Chun Hao glanced at the nearby others, and he was even more surprised in his heart. However, a wisp of complacency appeared on his chubby face right after that, and he said, "Looks like I've already far surpassed those at the same cultivation realm. With the experience of refining and absorbing the divine sense of a true immortal king, the influence of the pressure emanated from the profound and fundamental aura of this sort of cultivation realm is completely negligible to me. When the pressure of the Tao Mark was not activated, it only existed in the realm where the Tao Mark produced the pressure and the mystery it contained. For cultivators whose realm, temperament, and comprehension of the law of heaven were lower than the Tao Mark, these 2 points could easily make them fall into the pressure without them realizing it. However, if there was no energy to activate it, the strength of the pressure would not cause heavy pressure on the cultivator's body and soul. They would only immerse themselves in comprehending it and would not be harmed. However, Chun Hao's experience in the second level of the ancient chaos primitive realm had allowed his state of mind and comprehension of the law of heaven and earth to reach a level that far exceeded his cultivation realm. After all, he had refined the divine sense of a true immortal king. Even though countless years had passed, and the divine sense couldn't be compared to a true immortal king, the comprehension of the divine sense was that of a true immortal king. There should be about 100 times stronger space-time laws here. Otherwise, I have to report to the Great Hall in 2 to 4 hours. What can I comprehend in such a short time? Chun Hao thought to himself. Since we've decided to stay in the true martial pavilion, let's not waste time. This is the secret realm of the true martial great path. It's impossible to enter it at ordinary times. After a short moment, Chun Hao heaved a long sigh of relief, and his entire body directly entered into a clear and agile state. Just like everyone else, he naturally entered into the subtle state of the true martial Grand Tao. It was just as Chun Hao had guessed, but it was even higher. The true martial Great Tao mystic realm contained 365 times the laws of time. Inside the secret realm of the martial was in the secret realm. It was a little over a month in the secret realm, the great inside the secret realm. There, the secret martial, the pavilion, and the great hall masters, the martial hall, and the AO, the martial, and the U and the Yi had. Not long after, everyone moved forward slowly with resplendent gazes, held their breaths, and fell into deep thought. Sometimes they sat down cross-legged to comprehend. Including Chun Hao, their bodies and minds were completely immersed in the true martial Grand Tao, and they'd forgotten the time. Outside the secret realm, the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion and Tan Lin Hai stared at the clear image in front of them. It was the scene of the secret realm. Pavilion master, isn't this little fatty too monstrous? At first, we thought that we had picked up a moldable talent. Later, when he defeated one Ishui, we thought that we had picked up a true genius. But when his assessment results came out, especially his potential value and combat strength value, this old man thought that we had picked up a monstrous genius. But when I saw him, this old man suddenly felt that this little fatty was not someone that our University of Huayang could keep. At most, he would only be able to stay for 1,000 years. Pavilion Master, don't be surprised. Although he has just arrived at the great world of CND, his state of mind and comprehension of the law of heaven have long surpassed his own realm. Moreover, it has surpassed his realm by a lot. Also, he doesn't lack unique skills at all. The martial great path may not be much to him. More importantly, with his comprehension ability, especially after he has comprehended his own Tao, I'm afraid no one can be his teacher for a long time. Look, the pavilion master suddenly said in surprise. No way. Tan Lin Hai's eyes widened. This is too fast. Chi. In the image, Chun Hao, who had turned into a fatty, closed his eyes, punched, kicked, and twisted. His posture was extremely strange. At first glance, every move was full of flaws, and so was the law of divine powers contained in it. However, if one looked at it more carefully, one would find that when the moves were linked together, all the flaws were eliminated. The law of divine powers contained in it was even more miraculously superimposed with each move. When Chun Hao began to spontaneously perform these strange moves, one Ishui also began to perform almost the same actions almost at the same time. The profound meaning of the martial Great Path secret realm was to make the cultivator involuntarily sink into it and comprehend it wholeheartedly. Then, they would enter the state of thoughtless tranquility and move spontaneously. In a sense, it was similar to the Great Spirit Dance and the self-generated skill described in Qigong on Earth as lively in stillness. Under normal circumstances, this kind of self-generated skill phenomenon would only appear after a period of cultivation and comprehension. It was normal for one Ishui, as senior, to be able to enter this kind of self-generated skill state in such a short time. However, it was the fatty's first time. How could Tan Lin Hai not be shocked when he did it after entering for a short while? Less than 3 minutes outside is about a day inside. It's 4 times faster than the old man. The old man's record that has been held for tens of millions of years was broken by this little fatty, just like that. Ishui came here several times before she was the same as him. Cough. Ling Feng. Shuefian. This. Tan Lin Hai's eyes widened as he looked at the pavilion master beside him. He was extremely shocked and emotional. Who were these people? The results of the assessment of the monstrous geniuses were indeed very, very terrifying. However, this was the first time they had come into contact with the profound meaning of the martial Great Path. It was too shocking. Especially, it seemed like even the pavilion master was shocked. Ao Qian also entered. In less than half a minute, Ao Qian entered again after Ling Feng and Xue Fian. They really are four monstrous geniuses. Within 100 years, the four of them will definitely take 4 of the top 10 spots. The pavilion master of the martial pavilion had no choice but to admit it. The rest should be slower. There's definitely no hope this time, right? Tan Lin Hai said. Not necessarily. Pavilion master, although the rest are not bad, they are relatively weaker. Could it be that there's someone else with high comprehension? Chapter 1227. Chun Si. Chun Si. Chun Si can become the little fatty's Tao companion. Do you think it's just because of her appearance? There's no harm in telling you. After all, both of them were recommended by you. Chun Si has the complete inheritance of the 9 lives profound technique. Huh? Tan Lin Hai was surprised again. This was not because Tan Lin Hai was not calm, but because he thought that he already knew Chan Hao and others very well, but now he found that it was not the case at all. Many of their trump cards were simply unimaginable. How could Tan Lin Hai not know about the 9 lives profound technique? The number 1 person in the great world of CND, the inheritance left behind by the Star River King. Anyone who obtains the complete inheritance of the 9 lives profound technique has the qualifications to become a disciple of the Shao family. This was the glory that countless cultivators dreamed of. How can her aptitude be bad if she can obtain the inheritance of the Star River King's 9 lives profound technique? Her aura of life and youthful appearance were obviously not caused by any spirit medicine. Instead, she had given up on the cultivation conditions such as spirit pills and miraculous medicines, and cultivated step by step without any shortcuts. Although this kind of loss did not make up for the gains, this kind of tenacity and determination was something that ordinary people could not hope to achieve. And now, because the 9 lives profound technique has not been completed and the fusion of 1 life has not really integrated, causing her to be unable to exert her true strength. I can feel that her comprehension of the 9 lives profound technique has improved a lot, and it's only a matter of time. Oh, Tan Lin Hai did not know what to say. In addition, Chun Si has another talent, the immortal bloodline. What? Looking at Tan Lin Hai's shock, the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion smiled and said, although her immortal bloodline is not pure, for her own conditions, it means that she once again gets a ticket to enter the Jade Maiden Palace. The Star River King Shao family and the Jade Maiden Palace are the 2 strongest forces in the great world of CND. Even if her future is not as good as the little fatty, I'm afraid it won't be much worse. You just need to know about this. Understood. Pavilion Master, we have picked up a treasure. Yes, this time your contribution is not small. In addition, inform Du Minghui that in a few days, the old man will go to the true martial city. Yes, thank you, Pavilion Master. Tan Lin Hai immediately cupped his fists and said respectfully. He looked a little excited. Du Minghui was his good friend and the enforcer of true martial city who had recommended the little fatty to him. Now that the Pavilion Master said that he was going to true martial city to notify Du Minghui, he was naturally recommending Du Minghui to the upper echelons of true martial city. This was undoubtedly a good thing for Du Minghui, and it was also a way to thank Du Minghui for his recommendation. Every place, every world, had its own hierarchy and hierarchy. At the same time, he could not completely get rid of the ways of the world. In less than a minute, just as the Pavilion Master of the true martial pavilion had predicted, Xi Xian had also entered the state of spontaneity. Similarly, she had broken the Pavilion Master of the true martial pavilion's own result. Disregarding one Yixue, this senior student, of the 10 new students who came, 5 of them had broken the Pavilion Master's record. It also made Tan Lin Hai understand that the Pavilion Master was not lying when he said that the great era was coming. Awesome. It feels so good. Too bad, the time is too short. Is this the true martial great Tao? It's indeed extraordinary. Interesting. In a state of thoughtlessness, one's heart and Tao are united, and one moves spontaneously. This is Zhenwu. It feels so good. The heavens and earth are me, and I am the heavens and earth. It seems like this is the feeling, the stimulation of one's potential and the control of one's subconscious. It's so awesome. Ao Qian, Ling Feng, Shuefian, Si Xian, and Chun Hao all exclaimed in their hearts. Everyone had a look of longing on their faces. Unfortunately, time was up, and they were all pulled out by Tan Lin Hai. On the other hand, Su Tao, Yin Su Su, and the others from the Carnage Battle team did not feel as deeply as the five of them. Although their talents were not bad, it was their first time in the secret realm, and they did not trigger the state of spontaneity in the end. However, he could still clearly feel the soul-stirring, mysterious pressure of the true martial great Tao. It feels good, right? As long as you join the true martial pavilion, there will be many more opportunities to enter the secret realm in the future. I really hope that all of you can join the true martial pavilion. When you make your choice later, you must carefully consider the true martial pavilion. Tan Lin Hai led the group to the great hall quickly. At the same time, he looked at everyone's longing expressions and fanned them. Of course, Teacher Tan, don't worry. No matter what they do, I will definitely consider it. Ling Feng smiled and said, I don't care. I, Ao Qian, will choose whichever brother Fatty chooses. Although we are slightly inferior, we also have a right to choose. However, we will still be together with Brother Fatty and Brother Monkey. The Carnage Battle team is destined to be famous in the future. Naturally, we will not be separated, haha. The leader of the Carnage Battle team, Su Tao, said calmly. Previously, when Fatty had a conflict with Morong Qianhua, he had been a little troubled. However, now that he had followed them, he had forgotten about Morong Qianhua. Many times in one's life, one had to face choices that could affect one's life. If one made the right choice, one would have a meteoric rise. If one made the wrong choice, it could mean complete silence. In the end, no one could predict in advance. However, once one made the choice, there was no need to worry. In the end, Su Tao and the others still chose Fatty and Monkey. Am I that good? Fatty stared at Ao Qian and the people from the Carnage Battle team with a smug smile on his fat face. Ling Feng glanced at Ao Qian and the people from the Carnage Battle team, then looked at the smug Fatty. He snorted and said, Fatty, don't tell me that you have already decided? Shuefian was like a mummy. As usual, she did not say anything. However, when she heard Ling Feng's words, her ears twitched unnoticeably. Obviously, she was very concerned about Fatty's decision. Who exactly was the fated person? Shuefian was still not completely sure. However, she was certain that it was definitely one of Fatty Li Yuan, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian. After all, there were only 3 people in this batch who were qualified for her to stop. Because of this, when Fatty, Ao Qian, and Ling Feng wanted to follow Tan Lin Hai to the true martial pavilion to meet the pavilion master, she also took the initiative to follow. Moreover, she had already made the decision to follow to the end. This was because she could see that Fatty and Ao Qian were definitely together. Although Ling Feng, who loved to show off, did not say anything, he was obviously a person who shared the same rotten tastes as Fatty and Ao Qian. Moreover, he was a person who loved to join in the fun. It was basically certain that wherever Fatty chose, they would follow. Chi, chi, chi. Streams of light entered the large hall. This year's cultivators from the Daluo Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm arrived one after another. Buzz. Wow, they're stronger. Who is this? Who knows? Let's wait and see. It shouldn't be. I have seen the images of the Dean, Deputy Dean, and the Pavilion Masters and Deputy Pavilion Masters of the 10 Great Pavilions. Why can't I recognize any of these old seniors? Chapter 1228. He had something to do today, so he didn't write it. He took a day off. Until today, Wu Shan had quit smoking for exactly 2 months. The most difficult period of time. It was finally over. He sat in front of the computer. Although he still had some thoughts, he no longer felt restless and uneasy. In the past 2 months, excluding the 10 odd days when he went back to his hometown for the Chinese New Year, Wu Shan either went to the gym or walked through the streets and alleys. He either took his daughter out to play or made tea, listened to music, ate dried fruits, and so on to distract himself from the pain of smoking. Every day, he would forcefully hold back for 2 to 3 hours to write. Fortunately, the feeling of holding back was getting fainter and fainter. It had to be said that quitting smoking was really a painful thing. He had quit countless times. 99% of the time, he would tell himself that he would quit after he finished smoking that pack of cigarettes, when he still had one. In the end, 10 minutes after he finished smoking that pack of cigarettes, he would run out to buy cigarettes. The reason was very simple. Without cigarettes, he couldn't write. If he couldn't work, how could he support his family? Fortunately, this time, Wu Shan had steeled his heart. He would rather not write anymore than quit smoking. It had been 2 months. It should be considered a success, right? It had been 2 months. It was a good thing that he had more hair. It was as if his throat was stuffed with chicken feathers. It was no longer painful. It was a good thing. The only thing that was a pain in the ass was that his stomach had grown a little bigger. He had been very careful with his exercise and diet, but he still couldn't stop it. It had grown by 5 kilograms. That was the basic situation. He reported it to everyone. Smoking tortured me, and I tortured you all, scolding, cursing, insulting, leaving, and so on were all within his expectations. Wu Shan accepted all of it and bowed to apologize. Brothers and sisters who didn't leave and continued to write, thank you for your hard work. From tomorrow onwards, I will try to write 2 chapters. Bow to apologize. I have to go home quickly. I'm in Kunming, you know. Chapter 1229. The buzzing sound of discussion surrounded the old men sitting in the corner of the rostrum. None of the disciples who had already arrived at the Hua Hall recognized any of these old men. However, from the way they dressed, their bearing, and the aura they naturally emitted, everyone concluded that these old men should be reclusive old fellows from the Hua Academy. If it's an almighty who has retired, it should be, for Li Yuan, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian, very likely. In our Grand Mist Supremacy realm, only Murong Qianhua is outstanding. However, Murong Qianhua is a direct descendant of the Great Hall, and his master is one of the Almighty who has retired. The same is true for Xue Fian of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Therefore, only Li Yuan, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian are qualified to make these seniors come out. Murong Qianhua is here. While everyone was discussing animatedly around the old man on the rostrum, the weaker cultivators in the large hall suddenly felt as if they had descended into endless darkness. Immediately, numerous bright stars flashed and appeared from within the darkness. Immediately, they gathered together in front of everyone's eyes like numerous shooting stars that were approaching from afar. Who else could it be but Murong Qianhua with such a dazzling appearance? Amazing. Old Dean, this is the successor you've been hiding for many years, right? Oh, his name should be Murong Qianhua. He's really a dragon among men. On the rostrum, an old man looked at Murong Qianhua, who had made a dazzling appearance, and said to an old man who was sitting among them, whose aura was obviously stronger. Not bad. This is the successor of the old man's legacy. It's SOSO. I made a fool of myself. The old man, who was called the Old Dean, stroked his beard and smiled. His narrowed old eyes were full of doting and self-satisfaction as he stared at Murong Qianhua, who had just appeared. Anyone could see that he valued Murong Qianhua highly. Old Dean, truly, a famous teacher produces a brilliant disciple. Your disciple established the Starlight Battle Squadron in the immortal world space, but it is our great transforming stars #1 battle squadron. Even your servant at that time spent a bit of effort to find out just who the mysterious captain was. Unfortunately, it was to no avail. Rumor has it that the name Starlight came from your disciple's unique and profound movement technique. Now that I've seen it with my own eyes, it's truly profound and profound. Old Dean, is the name of this ability Starlight? I'm also very curious. Such a profound and miraculous ability is something that the old president has never displayed before. Otherwise, we would have guessed the identity of the Starlight Squadron's captain long ago. Ha ha! You bunch of fellows only know how to flatter the old man. Although it's the truth, the old man will still feel embarrassed. Ha ha ha! The old dean said with a hearty laugh. Apart from smugness, how could he be embarrassed? Ahem, OL President, you're just too low-key, that's true. Otherwise, old man, forget it, let's stop here. The movement technique that Qianhua displayed has nothing to do with the old man. It's an ancient inheritance that he obtained by chance. The name only has the word star. 9 stars transformation. 9 stars transformation. Could it be related to the legendary 9 stars alignment? That old man isn't sure. However, this isn't just a movement technique. It's a pity that Qianhua hasn't cultivated to the ultimate level yet. Otherwise, he would have shed all pretense and moved according to his heart. He wouldn't appear to be so high-profile. Old Dean, your point of view isn't right. You've suffered from being too low-key. Now that it's your disciple's turn, you can't be low-key anymore. Moreover, your disciple is still young. Young people don't need to show off a little bit of their ability. It's fine even if they show off their ability completely. Especially with your disciple's talent, you don't need to worry about anything on the Great Transformed Star. Yes, the Great Era is coming. For young people, it's the time to gather their luck, ride the wind and break the waves, and soar to the sky. If you keep a low profile and hide, you'll only suffer in the end. If I want to rule the heavens, I must have the momentum to rule the world. Momentum. Once the momentum is cultivated, no one can stop it. That's right. Murong Qianhua is undoubtedly one of the geniuses in the Great Transformed Star Academy, with the most hope of becoming a top existence in the Great Era. Haha! Old man came out of seclusion this time because he felt the subtle changes in our Great Transformed Star Academy's heaven secret. After knowing that there are a few monsters who can become top existences in the top academies in this batch of testers, he didn't hesitate to come out of seclusion. Of course, there's also a very important point. Sitting beside the old dean, the old man who had been silent all this time and had always had a faint smile on his face suddenly spoke. Immediately, the gazes of the surrounding old men, including the old dean, were attracted to him. Although this old man's status wasn't as high as the old dean's, even the old dean had to be courteous to him. Celestial Master. This was the innate ability that the old man had awakened after stepping into the true Immortal King realm. He could sense and even capture the unpredictable and unpredictable heaven's secret. Moreover, through the subtle changes in heaven's secret, he could deduce the fate related to himself and the people around him. Although it couldn't be as specific as the Great Deduction Technique, it still had the general trend of the world that the Great Deduction Technique didn't have. It was a little similar to the ability of the ancient astrologers in China. Elderly, what's the important point? Other than the old dean, everyone couldn't help but ask. The old dean knows. Celestial Master Li Tai smiled slightly, glanced at the old dean, and then closed his eyes. Obviously, he had kicked the ball to the old dean, who was Murong Qianhua's master. Old dean, her disciple has been born. Oh, her, in our Great Transformed Star Academy. Who can make old man not mention her name? Her disciple. Elderly, old man understands what you mean. All right, everyone listen up. Her disciple is Shui Fian. What? How is that possible? With her ability, is there anything she can't do? Now that you know what she has done, I believe you will naturally understand what to do. Just pretend that you don't know about this. Murong Qianhua looked around. When he saw the old man on the rostrum, sizing him up and his master talking with a gratified smile, he slowly walked forward and didn't interrupt them for the time being. Although he didn't know what they were talking about, he knew that it must be related to him. Moreover, he could basically guess that they were complimenting him. Disciple greets master. Greetings to all seniors. Murong Qianhua only bowed with cupped fists when he reached the rostrum. He didn't block the space between him and the rostrum, so his voice naturally reached the ears of all the cultivators. It couldn't be helped. Even if his voice wasn't loud, all the cultivators in the Great Transform Hall were paying attention to Murong Qianhua's every move. How could the captain of the Starlight Battle Team be an undeserving person? Chapter 1230. Qianhua. From today onwards, you are officially born. Come here. Master will introduce you to the seniors. Yes, Master. At this time, the cultivators in the large hall, which was all the freshmen who came to report, pricked up their ears. After a while, everyone looked at the old men on the rostrum with more and more shock and respect. The eyes that looked at Murong Qianhua were filled with envy and jealousy. These old men turned out to be extremely powerful existences among the reclusive mighty figures. Murong Qianhua's master was actually the old dean. This meant that Murong Qianhua must also have the freedom to choose. After all, his master was the old dean, and there was no reason to deliberately restrict him from entering any pavilion. In fact, as the successor of the old dean, it would not affect Murong Qianhua much which pavilion he entered. Qianhua, Master let you choose this batch to be born. First, your cultivation has reached a bottleneck, but it is far from your own limit in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Second, the world is coming, and it is undoubtedly the best time for you to be born. Master has told you these 2 points before. In addition, there is one more point that Master did not tell you. One more point? Master, please tell me. Originally, Master did not say it, because Master was still not sure who the other party was. Now, Master has confirmed it. This time, 4 monstrous geniuses have appeared in the Daluo Golden Wonderland. The second-ranked monstrous genius, Xue Fian, is the biggest reason Master wants you to be born. Murong Qianhua, who was communicating telepathically, was extremely surprised when he heard Master's words. At the same time, he was puzzled. What relationship did he have with Xue Fian? Why did Master want him to be born because of her? This woman is extraordinary. Not only is her talent and potential not inferior to yours, but more importantly, her identity. To be precise, she is her master. You have to think of a way to get close to her. If you can make her your Tao companion, that would undoubtedly be the best outcome. Master, did you make a mistake? Xue Fian's assessment results are indeed very monstrous. Even when I was in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, I was not as good as her. But she has lost her primordialine body, obviously. What? Master wants to harm you. That's not what I meant. Then listen to Master. When you succeed, you will realize that Master is doing this for your own good. Master! Murong Qianhua still wanted to refute, but when he saw his master's sharp eyes, he could only suppress the unwillingness in his heart. When they first came out, Murong Qianhua also paid attention to the Daluo Golden Wonderland because of Si Xian. How could he not notice Xue Fian's terrifying combat power and potential value? Initially, when Xue Fian had yet to come out from the test square, he still harbored great hopes. However, when he saw Xue Fian's disguise and the aura of her primordialine body, he was completely disappointed and gave up on any thoughts of seduction. Regardless of whether Xue Fian's true body was beautiful or not, just the fact that she had lost her primordialine body was enough to make him lose interest. But now, his master was asking him to pursue Xue Fian. How could he be willing? How could he feel good? However, even if he was unwilling to do so, at that moment, when he saw his master's fierce and imposing gaze, he didn't dare to say anything and could only obey. Join the same pavilion as her. Yes, Master. You don't need me to teach you how to chase a woman, do you? Although you've just been born, your experience in the immortal world is not fake. I know what to do. That's good. I'll wait for your good news. Also, among the 4 great evildoers, Li Yuan, who ranks first, probably has greater talent and potential than you. The only difference is that he's 1 realm lower than you. However, you can make friends with such a person. Know yourself and know your enemy. In the future, when there's a need to determine the winner, you'll know what to do. Understand? Ahem. Master this. You've just come out, so I'm afraid no one has reported to you. With what happened before, it's impossible for me to make friends with little fatty. We can only be enemies. Oh? What's going on? Hiss. Murong Qianhua quietly sent a ray of memory light to his master. After the old dean saw it, he frowned slightly and thought to himself, Strange. This woman named Chun Si actually has a familiar feeling. Jade Maiden Palace. Yes, Prince Ing. She actually looks somewhat similar to Prince Ing. No wonder she feels familiar. It's a little strange that she hasn't cut her Dao at such a young age, but can't die. It's very strange that she can maintain her youthful appearance and boundless vitality. It's even stranger that her talent is not bad. But when the three are combined, it's not strange. There must be another reason. If we meet her, the old man might be able to see something. The old dean looked at Murong Qianhua and said, "You've made enemies so quickly because of a woman. You brat, but you have good taste. What do you plan to do?" "I've never failed to do what I set my mind on." Very good. That's you. According to Master, the Hua Academy should be the most important. But Li Yuan is different from you. He's not a direct disciple, so he won't be limited to the Hua Academy. What you do is up to you. But there's one thing, you must fight fairly. You can't use any tricks or you'll lose. Your goal is to embark on the path of the immortal emperor, so you can't be afraid of any genius. The path of the immortal emperor is a competition between the strong. If you don't even have the confidence to face a real opponent, you've lost the heart of the strong. Without the heart of the strong, how can you reach the peak and rule the world? Although Master can't go that far, I firmly believe in this. Star River King, after countless years, is only a quasi-emperor. He has never been able to take the last step. Do you know why? I don't know. You don't need to know for the time being. Just know that you can't lose the heart of the strong at any time. Otherwise, it will become your biggest constraint in the future. Go down, they're coming soon. Yes, Master. Chi. Murong Qianhua turned into a stream of light and quickly left the rostrum, returning to his seat. It took a long time to describe, but in fact, the exchange of divine thoughts between the two was only a moment. No one knew that this moment had a huge impact on Murong Qianhua. Ha! Old Dean, Grand Elders, it seems that you've also heard the news. But let's put it bluntly first. You can't force people. It's a two-way choice, and everything is voluntary. This is the premise. None of us can violate it. Accompanied by hearty laughter, a voice appeared out of thin air into Hua Hall. Immediately, dozens of old men and women suddenly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. They clustered around a cultivator who looked like a middle-aged man, but had an extremely powerful aura. The person who spoke was this man. Who else would dare to say such a thing except the current dean of the Hua Academy? Chapter 1231. Seeing this scene, the people present could not help but sigh again. In the past, even when they reported to the Great Hall, the dean, vice dean, and other higher-ups rarely appeared. But this year, because of the monstrous geniuses, the dean, vice dean, and the rest of the reclusive old men, the dean and the vice dean had rushed over. From this, it could be seen how big of a commotion Fatty Li Yuan, Ling Feng, Ao, Qian, and the others had caused. Grand Elder Li, even you are here. The current dean, Cheng Wanxiang, led 2 vice deans, 10 pavilion masters, and 20 vice pavilion masters to the rostrum and bowed to Grand Elder Li, the master of seer. I heard that there are a few monstrous geniuses who are comparable to the top geniuses of the top academies. Naturally, the old man has to come and take a look. The great era is coming, and geniuses are emerging in multiples. Unfortunately, we are no longer young and have missed this great era. We can only watch. Grand Elderly stroked his beard and smiled. Hiss, hiss, hiss. While Dean Cheng Wanxiang and the others attracted everyone's attention, several figures arrived at the back of the crowd as fast as lightning. Chen Hao, Si Xian, Ling Feng, Ao, Qian, Shuefian, and the members of the Carnage Battle team were only sent over by Tanlin Hai at this time. Not a minute more, not a minute less. Although the 10 people arrived silently, they still attracted the attention of the cultivators around them. However, because they were all paying attention to the conversation between the dean and the others, they did not cause a ruckus. Dean, all the disciples of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm have arrived. All the disciples of the Daluo Golden Wonderland have arrived. The teachers in charge of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm and Gu Chan, who was in charge of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, such as Chun Hao, reported one after another under Dean Sheng Wanqiang signal. As the two teachers spoke, the elders on the rostrum, who were already in position, looked at the back of the group and locked their eyes on Chun Hao, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Xue Fian. With their cultivation and perception, there was no need for Gu Chan to introduce them. They could roughly determine who was who based on the auras of Chun Hao and the others. Xi was even easier to recognize. However, no one paid any attention to Xi. The ones they wanted to see the most were Chun Hao, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian. Of course, because of Li Taishang's words, they wanted to see what Xue Fian looked like even more. Unfortunately, Xue Fian was able to conceal her true appearance well. She managed to block the gazes of the true immortal kings. No one was able to see through her true appearance. Even with Chun Hao's fiery golden eyes, he could only see Xue Fian's physical body. However, this was also within the expectations of the reclusive mighty figures. How could she allow them to see through her disciple? "All right, you may begin," President Cheng Wanqiang said in a deep voice. "Yes, disciples of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, listen up. When I call your name, come to the front desk immediately. First place, Li Yuan. Chi." As soon as Master Gu Chan finished speaking, Chun Hao flew to the front desk without hesitation. The front desk was for the pavilion masters and deputy pavilion masters of the 10 pavilions to carefully size up the cultivators so that they could decide whether to fight for them or not and what conditions they should offer. Disciple Li Yuan pays his respects to all the seniors. I came to Dahua Academy because the pavilion master of the True Martial Pavilion specially recruited me. Therefore, I choose to join the True Martial Pavilion no matter what the conditions are. Thank you. Just as everyone was preparing to carefully investigate this ordinary-looking but monstrous little fatty, and to the best of their ability to offer conditions to win him over, the little fatty actually said this directly, to everyone's surprise. This was out of everyone's expectations. Even the pavilion master of the True Martial Pavilion was deeply surprised. After all, it could be said that he had not offered any substantial conditions to the little fatty yet. The little fatty only needed to wait for the other 9 pavilions to offer their conditions. He could only refer to the best conditions and give the little fatty the corresponding treatment. However, the little fatty actually gave up such an opportunity to fight for himself. Li Yuan, are you sure you've thought it through? The old man's Dahua Pavilion has prepared the strongest cultivation plan for you in Dahua Academy. Moreover, the old man can take you in as his successor. Also, you should know that the Dahua Pavilion is the strongest existence in our academy. The deputy pavilion master of the Dahua Pavilion suddenly frowned and said, as the strongest pavilion in Dahua Academy, the Dahua Pavilion was determined to win over a monstrous genius like Chun Hao. This was not just a matter of getting a genius, but also a matter of who the first place of the Daluo Golden Wonderland belonged to. This was very important. The little fatty's terrifying assessment results, especially his terrifying potential value, were really too shocking. More importantly, the little fatty had only been in the great world of CND for a very short time. This also meant that the little fatty could possibly have a shocking increase in strength before long. In the future, the possibility of him becoming the first person in the Daluo Golden Wonderland was very, very high. The impact was much greater. At the same time, there was another very important point. That was the little fatty's decision basically represented 3 people, or even more people. There were at least 2 that could be confirmed. One was Xi Xian, who did not age and had a shocking talent and endurance. Secondly, the monstrous genius Ao Qian was another. Without mentioning Xi Xian, Ao Qian was a very important person. In the future, he would definitely step into the top 10. I'm sorry, I don't have much, but I know that I must repay kindness and seek revenge for the smallest grievance. If there's kindness, I, this fatty, will do my best until my death. There's no room for discussion. If there's enmity, then I must definitely return an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Sorry, I've said too much. There's only kindness here. Moreover, I, this fatty, feel that I'm very fated with the true martial path. Therefore, I can only disappoint senior's appreciation. The fatty spoke frankly and with assurance. On his fat face, there was a very stupid smile. The words that came out of his mouth seemed to be really stupid. However, it had to be said that it was very much to the liking of some people. At least, it let everyone know that this fatty was a person who clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. Well said. Very good. This little fatty has some tricks up his sleeve. Some of the powerful people who had lived in seclusion nodded. Even a master of divination, Li Taishang, revealed a look of admiration. He stared at the fatty's big head again and again, as if he had seen a secret that others could not see. His eyes became more and more interested. Chi. It was also at this time that Chun Hao took the initiative to take out his token. It floated directly in front of the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, Emo Shilin. Pavilion master, this fatty can only sign a 1,000-year contract. Please understand, no problem. After 1,000 years, if you stay, we can continue to sign. If you leave, we will also send you off. Everything is up to fate. Take mine too. Si Xian suddenly soared into the air and flew to Chun Hao's side. At the same time, she also took out her own token. Si Xian was Chun Hao's Dao companion. This was what she should do. Chapter 1232. Looking at the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, Emo, Shilin, Fatty, and Si Xian, the higher-ups of the large pavilion were helpless and could only shake their heads helplessly. What a pity, what a pity. He's just a specially recruited student. Why should he use his future to repay him? The difference between the true martial pavilion and our great transformation pavilion is not small. There will be times when he regrets it. This kind of impulsive person, no matter how strong his talent is, will be stuck in a dead end. His future achievements might not be strong. Let's wait and see. The two vice pavilion masters of a large pavilion said without any scruples. Emo Shilin, the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, had a gratified expression as he signed the contract with Chun Hao and Si Xian. He completely ignored the arrogant great transformation pavilion. However, the two vice pavilion masters of the true martial pavilion had a disdainful expression as they said indifferently, "The 10 pavilions of the large pavilion each have their own strengths and weaknesses. What is strong and what is weak? Would the true martial pavilion hold back their disciples? What a joke. You just snatch the strongest genius disciple every time. Don't think too highly of yourselves." You continue. The argument that was filled with the smell of gunpowder had just begun when the dean, Cheng Wanxiang, frowned and interrupted. His voice was filled with authority, causing the vice pavilion master of the Great Transformation Pavilion to shut his mouth. Second place, Xue Fian. Master Guchan did not hesitate and called out again. Chi. Xue Fian, who had disguised her aura, instantly turned into a stream of light and appeared on the stage. She, who had an ordinary appearance and did not have a primordialine body, still had no emotions in her eyes. However, what made the pavilion masters on a rostrum frown slightly was that she actually took out her token and appeared in front of the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion. I like the true martial path. I'm a free person. I just need to sign a 1,000-year contract. Voila, Xue Fian's emotionless words shocked countless people. It could be said that other than the old man on the rostrum who had appeared at the beginning and the current dean, everyone else was stunned. How could she be a free person? It's not strange to have freedom of choice. How can a direct disciple be free? Most people did not understand. Chi, the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, Emo Shilin, frowned as he took out the pavilion master token. He connected to Xue Fian's token and received the message that she was indeed free. She was not restricted by any of the direct disciples. To be precise, although she had grown up in Dahua University, she had transcended beyond Dahua University. Almost instantly, Mexelin thought of a possibility. He looked at Xue Fian with a serious expression and signed the contract. Fatty, this woman can't have taken a liking to you, right? Why did she choose with you? Si Xian transmitted. How could that be? I'm a big fatty now. Although I've revealed some of my abilities, I'm still a fatty in the end. Moreover, I'm not much stronger than her. Moreover, I already have such a beautiful Tao companion like you. Why would you take a fancy to me? Of course, even if she has discerning eyes and has taken a fancy to me, I have no interest in her. Why are you so nervous? Who's nervous? I just have a feeling that it's because of you. You're right. Maybe my intuition is wrong. Xian frowned. Due to Shui Fian's words, the buzz of discussion continued to spread in the Great Hall. Those who had guessed the possibility shut their mouths obediently. Those who didn't know of her existence naturally wouldn't be able to guess why Shui Fian was free. Continue, the dean said again, interrupting everyone's discussion. He did not explain anything. Third place, Ling Feng. Qi. After using the Heavenly Horse's Starry Sky art, Ling Feng appeared on the stage at an astonishing speed. Moreover, under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, especially the gazes of the true celestial kings on the main stage, his expression did not change as he stroked his bangs in a showy manner. Disciple Ling Feng greets all the seniors. I've been to the True Martial Pavilion before and am very interested in the True Martial Great Tao. Ling Feng, wait a minute. Don't tell me you're going to choose the True Martial Pavilion as well. I haven't decided yet. I'm not a fatty. To put it nicely, he's simple and honest. To put it bluntly, he's a fool. Naturally, I like to listen to all the seniors' conditions. Of course, it would be better if I could sense the aura of the great Tao of each pavilion. Whoosh! Chun Hao, A.O. Qian, and the others were speechless when the showy Ling Feng took out a folding fan after he finished speaking. He opened it with a swoosh and gently fanned himself. His appearance and expression were indescribably charming and handsome to some of the infatuated women, but in the eyes of the men, they could not wait to slap the showy Ling Feng. The Great Transformation Hall's Ascension Great Tao is one of the strongest great Taos of the Immortal Path. Time is limited, and Old Man can only give you a glimpse of it. Qi, the pavilion master of the Great Transformation Hall, made his move. Boundless immortal light immediately shone in the hall. Since he was going to use it, he would let all the disciples feel it at once. When it was time for them to choose, it would increase their chances of choosing the Great Transformation Hall. This was something they had to do from the beginning. However, the fatty and Shui Fian had both chosen the True Martial Pavilion, leaving the pavilion master of the Great Transformation Hall and the others helpless and embarrassed. This was something that had never happened before. However, today the two strongest great Taos did not choose them. The third one, Ling Feng, was someone they had to fight for. Ascension Great Tao. What a wonderful and mysterious feeling. Phew! Amazing. As expected of the strongest Great Transformation Hall. Almost in an instant, all the cultivators in the hall revealed shocked expressions. Soon after, they were intoxicated and unable to extricate themselves. Even Chun Hao, Xian, Shui Fian, and the others were no exception. The ethereal and graceful feeling was completely different from the true martial Great Tao. How is it? It's not bad, Ling Feng said nonchalantly. Old Man can make an exception and give you the treatment of being in the top 10. Your assessment results are worth it. What do you think? No hurry, no hurry. I need to look at the other halls before I make my decision. Feel the aura of our 9 mysterious Great Tao. We can give you the same conditions that the Great Transformation Hall gave you. After all, your talent and potential are ranked first in the past 10,000 years. It's just a coincidence that we met. The pavilion master of the 9 mysterious pavilion, who is ranked second in the Great Transformation Hall, made his move. Indeed, as the pavilion master of the True Martial Pavilion said, the other halls could give the same treatment. Everyone's rights were about the same. No one could be too special. The real deciding factor was which great Tao the cultivator liked. That was the most important thing. After Ling Feng sensed the aura of the great Tao of the 9 mysterious pavilions, he said something that made people spit out rice. The True Martial Pavilion is like my first love. First impressions are the strongest. All of you are quite good, especially Great Transformation and 9 Mysterious. Unfortunately, sigh, I've already fallen in love with the true martial pavilion. Fatty, I'll reluctantly accompany you. Anyway, the conditions are the same. Chapter 1233. Whoosh! Ling Feng's token floated directly to the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, Emoshilin. Similarly, he signed a 1,000-year contract. Ao Qian appeared right after. This brother was very straightforward. Without saying a word, he directly handed the token to Emoshilin. The top 4 of the Daluo Golden Wonderland had all chosen the true martial pavilion. This made many people suspect that the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion had done something to Chun Hao and the others. Otherwise, why would they all choose the true martial pavilion? However, the dean, deputy dean, and so many reclusive almighties had not discovered anything, let alone the others. Fortunately, there was finally a change in the following disciples. However, perhaps due to the influence of the 4 great monstrous geniuses, 1/5 of the cultivators chose the true martial pavilion. It was almost on par with the strongest great transformation pavilion. Fortunately, this choice was for both pavilions. Moreover, there was a limit to the number of people in each pavilion. Therefore, the true martial pavilion had stopped early on for half of the people in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. The Carnage Battle Team, which was ranked at the top, had naturally finished their selection and entered the true martial pavilion. After the disciples of the Daluo Golden Wonderland were allocated, the true martial pavilion could be said to have won a great victory. Under the leadership of the 4 great monstrous geniuses, the overall quality was better than the Great Transformation Pavilion. The Great Transformation Pavilion originally thought that they would be able to regain some face in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. However, no one expected something even more exaggerated to happen. Murong Qianhua, who was ranked first in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, had a master who was the Old Dean. He also had the right to choose. The Old Dean was originally from the Great Transformation Pavilion. The biggest possibility was that he would choose the strongest Great Transformation Pavilion. However, Murong Qianhua chose the true martial pavilion as well. No one would be surprised if he chose the true martial pavilion alone. After all, everyone had seen what happened between Murong Qianhua and Fatty. It should be because of Fatty and Chun Si that he made such a choice. Whether it was to teach Fatty a lesson or because he had not given up on Chun Si in his heart. What really surprised everyone was the terrifying influence that Murong Qianhua brought after he made the first choice. Among the top 100 experts, half of them chose the true martial pavilion directly. Moreover, they all expressed that they were following the Starlight team leader. Among them, there were 38 women and 12 men. The number of women made up all of the 100 people. In other words, Murong Qianhua's lethality towards women was 100%. Such charisma was evident from this. Seeing this, Feng Ling, Ao Qian, and even Chun Hao felt a little envious and jealous. Wasn't this too awesome? F***CK. Fatty bro, this guy keeps staring at us. He's obviously targeting us. Damn it. Whoosh. What are you afraid of? As long as I advance to Hongmeng, I can crush him with one hand. What's there to be cocky about in front of me? They're just a bunch of love-struck fools with no foresight, no knowledge, and no brains. Bah! Before Chen Hao could say anything, Ling Feng, this big show-off, opened his folding fan with a swish and said disdainfully. At the same time, he stroked his bangs and aimed his nose at Murong Qianhua, who was not far away. TSK, who's afraid? You can advance to Hongmeng, but can't I? You? It's not that I want to criticize you, but although you've hidden a little bit, it's completely exposed. Compared to me, you're still 2 streets behind. Compared to that cocky guy, he's at least a whole street behind. T. In terms of strength, without a real battle, who's going to piss who? Don't take the assessment results too seriously. If you take it seriously, you're too naive. Oh, I forgot. If we're talking about flirting, I'm indeed 2 streets behind you. Well, I'm 1 street behind that coquettish guy. Huh, little monkey, do you know what you're saying? You're courting death. What's he doing here? The two were bickering with each other, frowned slightly at the same time, and stopped. Murong Qianhua seemed to be unable to wait for the other disciples to finish their assignments. With a smile on his face, he quietly walked toward them step by step. Is this guy crazy? Does he dare to make a scene here? Ling Feng and Ao Qian were both puzzled. Although their bickering was very quiet and within a certain range, the two deliberately did not use the safer method of transmitting their voices. Such a situation, naturally, could not escape the detection of those who were interested. Murong Qianhua was paying attention to them. It was not strange that he heard them, but it was strange that he did not hear them. However, in the eyes of the two, even if Murong Qianhua heard them, he would not be able to flare up. After all, this was a public place, and the conversation between the two was within a certain range. Unless one's divine sense came to investigate, they would not be able to hear it. However, Murong Qianhua actually walked over slowly and silently with a smile on his face. At the same time, there were a few subordinates who were allowed to follow him. There was not a single female disciple. You really don't know what's good for you. How can you compare to our captain? It's just the results of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. You want to be compared to our captain? You're simply dreaming. That's right, that's right. Not to mention the difference in strength, just in appearance. How can you compare? A skinny monkey with a red face and a monkey's butt, and a sissy with a strong een and weak yawn. They're not even worthy to carry our captain's shoes. Oh, and there's also a fat pig like the fat. Murong Qianhua's follower, who is also a follower, gave him a taste of his own medicine. After approaching, he took the lead to shield the surrounding space. He looked at Ling Feng and Ao Qian with disdain. The second one, as he spoke, he looked at Chun Hao, who was with the two. However, when he said the word dead, his expression changed. He stuttered the word fat, but could not say the word fat anymore. No one felt anything unusual. They only saw the fat man squinting his eyes and smiling kindly like the Maitreya Buddha. No matter how one looked at it, he had a harmless expression. However, the rude follower took 2 steps back before he could stop himself. His face instantly turned pale and cold sweat poured down. At the same time, his eyes became absent-minded. Thud! Murong Qianhua frowned slightly. His thin and very stylish lips suddenly opened slightly, and a syllable was uttered almost silently. Immediately, he stabilized the follower who seemed to have fallen into an illusion with one hand. Everyone and everything was silent. They rose quietly and then died quietly. Even the closest cultivators did not notice if they did not deliberately investigate this place. However, this invisible brief confrontation was clearly seen and sensed by those who were observant, especially those who were at the true Immortal King realm on the rostrum. Little fatty, you're a little stronger than I thought. Your control of the 7 emotions and 6 desires has reached such a level. You're really amazing. Murong Qianhua's face regained its smile and said lightly. He also controlled his voice within a certain range and did not use voice transmission. He knew very well that many people were paying attention to his every move. In the confrontation just now, he let the dog bite people. It could be said that the little fatty slapped him back and dissolved it into nothingness. He could not help but be shocked by the little fatty's emotional illusion. There's only one update today. Don't wait. Chapter 1234. Most importantly, although his sound wave technique had broken Chun Hao's emotional illusion, it seemed to have hit empty air. Little Fatty did not suffer any backlash. Not even a little bit, without a doubt. Even he had been fooled by the Little Fatty. And the other party was only Daluo Jingxian. He and his followers were Hongmeng Supreme. It's just SOSO. Master Fatty can't stand dogs biting people. In the future, you have to take care of your blood brother. Otherwise, if Master Fatty accidentally uses too much strength, he will become a dead dog. It doesn't matter if the dog dies, but Master Fatty will be implicated. Don't you think so? Is there any point in trying to win a battle of words? Your talent is not bad, but unfortunately, Murong Qianhua shook his head. His expression was aloof, as if he did not mind Little Fatty scolding him using his blood brother as a dog. In fact, This guy was fuming with anger, but he still looked calm on the surface. Amazing, amazing. I'm impressed, I'm impressed. I don't know about other things, but your self-restraint is really unparalleled. Tell me, are you going to accept Master Fatty's life and death challenge? Boring. I said that I won't take advantage of you. If you have the ability, step into Hongmeng Supreme as soon as possible. I, Murong Qianhua, will welcome your challenge at any time, a life and death challenge. Murong Qianhua said in a deep voice. This time, as he spoke, his eyes were sharp and his words were powerful. Although he had said roughly the same words before, this time, it gave Chun Hao and the surrounding cultivators who were paying attention to this place a completely different feeling. He was much more determined. No one doubted the truth of his words. After Murong Qianhua finished speaking, he no longer looked at Fatty, who had no image to speak of. As if nothing had happened, he said to Si Xian, Chun Si, forgive me for my rudeness. The door of the Starlight Squad will always be open for you. When you understand more, you can join Starlight at any time if you're willing. Starlight needs your outstanding endurance talent. After speaking, Murong Qianhua smiled and nodded. Without waiting for Chen Si to answer, he turned around. Oh my God, can this guy be any more shameless? Ao Qian was dumbfounded. Awesome. Ling Feng's folding fan froze in midair as he exclaimed in admiration. Unrivaled self-restraint, first-rate forbearance, first-rate talent, first-rate strength. I have to say, although it disgusts me to the point of wanting to vomit, this is truly a F** King awesome talent. Ao Qian said again. Yes, you're right. I've always thought that I didn't have any moral integrity. But now, I suddenly realize that I still have some moral integrity in front of someone. My ass, moral integrity? You still have chastity. Scram. Monkey, you can insult my moral integrity, but you can never doubt my chastity. I, your brother, have never touched a woman's but before. What? You? Are you serious? Monkey Ao Qian said in shock. Nonsense. Of course it's true. Ling Feng said seriously. F***ck, you're my confidant. You're even better than me. I haven't even held a woman's hand before. Ao Qian's eyes shone with a sense of kinship and regret that they hadn't met earlier. Are you serious? Ling Feng asked with an exaggerated expression. Nonsense, of course it's true. Ao Qian replied, just like Ling Feng. Haha, F***ck, there really is a piece of trash like you. You're too stupid. Haha, I, your brother, am handsome and elegant. I played with at least 800 if not 1,000 women. Haha, I knew you were in a difficult situation, but I didn't expect it to be to this extent. I'm impressed. I, F***ck, 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 F***ck. Ao Qian wanted to find a piece of tofu and kill himself. F***ck. He was fooled by this be***starred. Fortunately, when the two of them talked about this, it was limited to the two of them, Chun Hao and the members of the Carnage Battle team. They didn't lose too much face. Miss Xuefian, hello. Puffed. F***ck. Cough, cough. This taste, Chun Hao, Ao Qian, Ling Feng, and Su Tao of the Carnage Battle team were stunned. They didn't expect that Murong Qianhua, who turned around and left, would walk to Xuefian, who was very close to them, and take the initiative to greet her gently. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. Cece, did you see that? I've never seen such a shameless person. Fatty said with his hands spread out. Fatty, why do I feel that you're envious of his courage? What? I'm envious of his courage? Heavens. Is Fat Bro's taste that bad? Ha! That's right, sister-in-law. I'm not criticizing you, but I have a cultivation partner like you. Why would I be interested in other women? Not to mention, cough, cough. Ao Qian the monkey was about to continue speaking, but he stopped abruptly. He clasped his hands in Xuefian's direction and said, Well, Xuefian, I'm just speaking the truth. After all, you have a cultivation partner. Fine, I won't say. Ao Qian shut up. Xuefian glared at Fatty's face with her sharp eyes before she slowly withdrew her gaze. What a powerful woman! Chun Hao and Ling Feng were a little stunned and a little shocked. Not to mention Ao Qian, who was frightened by Xue Fian's glare. It wasn't that Ao Qian was annoying, but the coldness in Xue Fian's eyes was really frightening. Of course, the most important point was that Ao Qian and the others didn't have any grudges with Xue Fian. Although they didn't interact with each other, they were somewhat close. Therefore, Ao Qian, who was in the wrong first, obediently shut up. Xue Fian, who withdrew her gaze, looked directly at Ling Feng, who was standing in front of her. She didn't say anything, and even her eyes didn't show any expression, as if she was just waiting for him to continue. Murong Qianhua felt nauseous. Who was he? But at this time, he actually took the initiative to approach a woman who had lost her primordialine body and disguised herself as a woman who was ugly to him. More importantly, he was so handsome, so strong, and such a powerful person took the initiative to approach, but the other party didn't even show any human emotions. This made Murong Qianhua a little suspicious. Did he forget to rinse his mouth after eating garlic? Why did he keep hitting a wall? But he had to do this. Xue Fian, Fatty, and the others left together and came together. Although he didn't see any interaction between them, it gave Murong Qianhua the feeling that they were a little close. He couldn't miss the opportunity. Miss Xue Fian, your talent and combat power are very strong. I hope that you can join the Starlight Battle Team. I can give you the position of Vice Captain. Don't be in a hurry to answer me. Just give me an answer within a month. I believe that you will make the best choice. The future of the Starlight Battle Team will definitely illuminate the whole of the great world of CND. Chapter 1235. Murong Qianhua's voice was impassioned. He looked high-spirited and arrogant, which affected many people nearby who were paying attention to him. However, Xue Fian, one of the protagonists, did not say anything. This is my contact number in the immortal realm. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Murong Qianhua said telepathically this time. But at this moment, the fat man stood between Murong Qianhua and Xue Fian with a swoosh. Fatty's sudden interruption made Murong Qianhua frown slightly. However, he had already said what he wanted to say, so it didn't matter. He wanted to see what this damn fatty was going to do. Chun Hao left his back to Murong Qianhua, but his fat face was full of flattery. He stared at Xue Fian and said, "Little Xue, you must take it easy. This Murong Qianhua is not a good person at first glance. He has a greasy face, a pointy face, and monkey cheeks. There are 8 words written on his forehead. Old lady leaning against the wall and drinking porridge. Do you know what that means?" Xue Fian's expression finally changed, but she only frowned slightly. Her eyes were still staring at Fatty without any emotion. Murong Qianhua also frowned slightly. For a moment, he did not understand what the old lady leaning against the wall and drinking porridge had to do with him. Although he vaguely knew that Fatty definitely wouldn't say anything good, he didn't know about the sayings on Earth. "Brother Fatty, what do you mean?" Monkey asked with an exaggerated expression. He deliberately increased the range of his voice. He really did not know what Chun Hao meant, but he was sure that he was mocking Murong Qianhua. Since Brother Fatty had asked, as a brother, he knew what to do. "Brother Fatty, it seems to be very meaningful." "Fatty, tell us, what do you mean?" Ling Feng followed. "Take a guess." Fatty glared at the two of them and said obnoxiously. But then he immediately said, "I don't know the meaning of these 8 words. Do you know how to describe this hypocritical guy with your own feelings?" Damn. Hypocritical, cunning, insidious, shameless, shameless. That's right. She's an old lady. Her teeth have all fallen out. Fatty reminded Ao Qian of, damn. Despicable, shameless, obscene. Ha! Chun Hao's reminder was not a big deal, but all the cultivators who were paying attention to this place were stunned for a moment before they all burst into laughter. Even the expressionless Xue Fian's body trembled imperceptibly. After all, who here wasn't a smart person? Those who were able to enter a first-rate academy were all geniuses. At first, they didn't think of it because there was no such thing in this world, so they couldn't connect the dots. With Chun Hao's reminder, everyone thought of it. Little fatty, don't test my limits. Murong Qianhua was finally enraged. He gritted his teeth and said, I'm so scared. What's your bottom line? Show it to me? Drop one level and fight to the death. You? Oof. Talking to a reckless person like you is a disgrace to my status. I'll say it again. I, Murong Qianhua, never take advantage of others. Catch up to my realm, and I'll welcome you to a life and death battle anytime. Let's go. Seeing Murong Qianhua flinch again, Chun Hao narrowed his eyes and said in a cold voice, Coward. Angry. How could Fatty not be angry? The first time, Murong Qianhua slapped his face and tried to steal his girl. Fatty was already angry, and he actually tried to do it again. Uncle could tolerate it, Aunt could tolerate it, but Fatty definitely couldn't. Unfortunately, this guy still avoided the battle. Although Fatty didn't get what he wanted, Murong Qianhua was almost vomiting blood because of Fatty. What Chen Hao said to Xue Fian next, as well as Xue Fian's answer, really made Murong Qianhua vomit 3 liters of blood. Fatty, you wanted to tell me this? Everyone didn't expect Xue Fian to take the initiative and call Chun Hao Fatty. Yes, don't join that guy's team. First, that guy is too bad. At first glance, you can tell that he's a weasel paying a visit to the chicken. He's up to no good. Second, we've been classmates for a few years, right? It's not good to become enemies. Don't you think so? Fatty said. This was what Fatty wanted to say the most. Xue Fian was unfathomable. Until now, Fatty still felt this way. Intuitively, she was even scarier than Murong Qianhua. This was one of the reasons. Secondly, just like what Xue Fian said, they had been in the assessment square for a few years. They were all top experts and joined the true martial pavilion together. Putting other factors aside, they more or less appreciated each other. You're right. Then I'll join the Carnage Plane? Great, that's great. Miss Xue Fian, on behalf of the Carnage Plane's captain, I welcome you to join us. Whether it's the captain or the vice captain, you can join if you have the ability. Brother Fatty, Brother Monkey, Ling Feng. All right, Brother Ling Feng. Brother, I'll join. The captain is mine. I can't run away. Bah, you? Don't say that I'm the first to be unconvinced. Even if you can convince me, there's still Brother Fatty. Now that Xue Fian has joined, you can't even be the second. Ha. I'm not interested in being the captain. I'll just join. After Xue Fian finished speaking, she returned to her emotionless expression. Fatty rubbed his head. He didn't expect it to develop to the point of having a teammate. But it was nothing. It wasn't a bad thing to have another monster. However, Murong Qianhua was different. He was extremely good at acting tough, and he was good at not showing his emotions. However, at this moment, his face was as red as a pig's liver. It was a slap in the face, an absolute slap in the face. Moreover, it was a slap in the face by Xue Fian. His bold words and the 1-month deadline were a huge joke. Xue Fian, who had ignored him from the beginning to the end, had decided to join the Carnage Plains team on the spot. 1 month. The daylily would be too late. If this wasn't a slap in the face, then what was? Although there weren't many cultivators who were paying attention to them, Murong Qianhua knew that his master and many seniors on the rostrum were watching him, Fatty, and the others. After all, they were the most talented and the most outstanding among this batch of testers. They were also the ones who attracted them to come out of their seclusion to take a look. It was a huge embarrassment. Dean, please take a look. Whoosh! As soon as all the disciples' affiliations were confirmed, the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion suddenly activated a memory light and sent it to Dean Cheng Wanxiang. What is it? Cheng Wanxiang was slightly puzzled and asked telepathically. Information about Chun Si, who is little fatty Li Yuan's Taoist companion, needs to be kept a secret for the time being. However, I want to apply for the treatment of the top 10 in the true martial pavilion's Grand Mist Supremacy realm for her. If not, the top 100 is fine too. I think she's qualified. Chapter 1236. Hearing Mo Shilin's words, Cheng Wanxiang hurriedly read the light of memory sent by Mo Shilin. Immediately, a look of pleasant surprise appeared on his face. As the current dean of Dahua Academy, Cheng Wanxiang was superior to the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion in both cultivation and knowledge. He was not inferior to the old dean. The moment he saw enlightened Si Xian, he, like the old dean, vaguely felt that Si Xian was not as simple as she appeared on the surface. It was just that he could not pinpoint exactly what was so special about her. And now, the information sent by Mo Shilin confirmed his feeling. Immortal bloodline, 9 lives inheritance. The immortal bloodline alone was nothing. Even when combined with the talent and potential that Si Xian was currently displaying, it was still nothing. But Si Xian had cultivated the 9 lives profound technique, which was completely different. Moreover, Si Xian had only integrated the second life. There were still 7 lives, and even 8 lives that had yet to be integrated. Of course, there were 2 most important points. First, Si Xian had cultivated with the most solid foundation. With this, the issue of Si Xian's age was not a problem. Second, the integration of Si Xian's original body and second life was not perfect and was still evolving. When the integration was truly perfect, the strength she displayed would be completely different from what it was now. This also meant that Si Xian's potential was much higher than what she had displayed. Coupled with her stunning appearance, she was definitely someone who met the requirements of the 2 strongest forces, the Galaxy King's Shao family and Jade Maiden Palace. Such a person, not to mention a first-class academy, even a top academy, would focus on nurturing her. Approved. Cheng Wanxiang did not hesitate at all and transmitted his voice. The top 10 will be treated for 100 years. After 100 years, the evaluation will be redone. Thank you, Dean. Mo Shilin transmitted his voice respectfully. In less than a quarter of an hour, Dean Cheng Wanxiang and the Vice Dean, as well as many elders, pavilion masters, and vice pavilion masters, finished their discussion. Gu Chan and another teacher separately announced the treatment and arrangements of Daluo Jingxian and the new disciples of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, which were branded on their respective tokens. When the teacher in charge of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm announced that the second disciple was not the original second place, but Si Xian, who had changed her name to Chen Si, everyone was surprised. When they heard that Si Xian had actually obtained the treatment of being one of the top 10 disciples in the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, and that it was for 100 years, they were even more shocked. This treatment was even more exaggerated than that of Chun Hao, Xue Fian, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Murong Qianhua, the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. 100 years. Chun Hao and the others only got 1 year. Chun Hao and Murong Qianhua had won first place in their respective realms. They deserved it. On the other hand, Xue Fian, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian were given special treatment by the higher-ups of the academy. The reason was very simple. Any one of them would be ranked first unless they were in the current batch. This kind of existence was among the top geniuses in the top academies. How could they not give special treatment to him? Because of Si Xian, the dean only added 1 sentence. He has an S-grade innate ability to conceal his divine ability. With just this 1 sentence, everyone's doubts turned into shock. At the same time, the way everyone looked at Si Xian, the immortal legend, changed again, especially Murong Qianhua. Qi. These are the palaces of our true martial pavilion in the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. Murong Qianhua, Chun Si, your palaces will be built in 3 days at most. They will also be the 28th and 29th palaces of the top 10 in the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. They will also be the 19th palaces of the top 10. However, I believe that all of you have hopes of entering the top 10 palaces. Do you see? The 10 highest peaks in the core area are the disciples of the top 10 comprehensive rankings. It's the same for the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Although the conditions of your palaces are exactly the same as the real top 10, the location of the palaces and the number of star veins occupied are inferior. Tan Linhai brought Chun Hao, Xue Fian, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian, the 4 Daluo Jingxian, as well as Murong Qianhua and Si Xian, the 2 Hongmeng Supremes, to the area where the true martial pavilion disciples lived. All 6 of them had obtained the top 10 treatment. Moreover, they had all chosen the true martial pavilion, which was completely unexpected. Similarly, Si Xian, Shui Fian, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian had obtained the top 10 treatment of their respective realms, which was also unexpected. Therefore, usually one of the palaces of the top 10 in each of the two realms could be condensed successfully in half a day, but became 3 days. Teacher Tan, you can tell the pavilion master that I don't need to condense my palaces to avoid wasting them. If I remember correctly, the contribution value should be archived in 10 days, and the comprehensive ranking will calculate the contribution value to 0, right? That's indeed the case. Morong Qianhua, do you want to challenge the top 10 experts? Or do you want to retest the potential value and combat strength value? Tan Linhai was a little surprised. The comprehensive ranking, combat strength value, and potential value could be retested at any time to refresh the data, but the contribution value would be archived and reset once every 10 years. The so-called archiving and reset meant that the contribution value calculated into the comprehensive ranking was limited to the contribution value obtained within a 10-year period. After 10 years, the contribution value of the current year would be stored in the potential value available to the cultivator, and the potential value calculated on the pagoda monument would start from 0 again. Only in this way could a true reflection of a cultivator's ability, and at the same time, it could stimulate the cultivator to enter to a greater extent. If there was no such thing, then the cultivators who had been in the University of Dahua for a long time would have an advantage. Morong Qianhua's words clearly meant that he was confident that he could become the real top 10 after the contribution value was reset to 0. Challenge then. Morong Qianhua smiled slightly and said, I, Morong Qianhua, don't need special permission. I will obtain the top 10 with my own strength. Morong Qianhua, who had already reserved some of his strength, could certainly obtain a higher result through the reassessment of the potential value and combat strength value. But Morong Qianhua chose to challenge more directly. The reason was very simple. Firstly, it was difficult for a young new genius to compete with a top genius senior who had experienced countless years and countless assessments. This was one of the reasons. Secondly, the top 10 who won through challenges were the real top 10. Otherwise, if one obtained the top 10 purely through the assessment of combat strength and potential value, he would basically have to face the opponent's challenge, and if he lost, he would be replaced. While speaking, Morong Qianhua glanced at Chun Hao with a hint of provocation in his eyes. Teacher Tan, how could the fat man stand such a gaze? He spoke directly. Tan Linhai frowned slightly, obviously guessing what the fat man was going to say. You can also tell the pavilion master that there is no need to build my palace. It would be a waste. The fat man held his head high and puffed out his chest. Little fatty, you have to think carefully. Your combat strength and potential value can temporarily rank in the top 10 after being reset to 0. However, if you really want to occupy the palace, you will definitely face the challenge of the top 10 disciples. That's not, Tan Linhai hurriedly said. Unlike how he treated Morong Qianhua, Tan Linhai felt close to the fat man, as if he was the one who brought him to the University of Dahua. He also felt that it was right to give the fat man advice. I know. The fat man waved his hand and said resolutely, Damn, brother Fatty, you my idol. Damn it, Fatty, are you forcing me to make the same choice? I can't be inferior to you. Go away. How can you make the same choice as me? The fat man glared at Ling Feng and immediately looked at Tan Linhai. Teacher Tan, I'm serious. There's no need to build it. Cece's palace is the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, and it's been 100 years. Of course, I, the fat man, will be with Cece. Everything that needs to be added will be added to Cece's palace. We are Taoist companions. Even if our realms are different, we can't be separated. Special problems, special solutions. Right, Teacher Tan? Chapter 1237. F*CK. Ao Qian and Ling Feng both cursed out loud. Fatty's words and expression were too wretched. Si Xian was also stunned. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she did not say anything. Her pretty face was slightly red. There was no other way. She could not possibly reject Chun Hao's suggestion, could she? That was impossible. After all, they were Tao companions. Moreover, before this, she was able to come here because of Chun Hao. Therefore, even if she was a little shy, she could only lower her head and acquiesce. On the other hand, Murong Qianhua looked at Fatty with disdain. However, what he got in return was Fatty's arrogant words. What are you looking at? Lord Fatty is not an idiot. Why should I learn from an idiot? What are you staring at? Challenge Lord Fatty if you have the guts. Murong Qianhua was so angry that his whole body trembled. He was just short of exploding. However, he, who cared about his image and identity, held himself back in the end. He felt that it was beneath his dignity to argue with a hooligan like Fatty. You two don't have to report your thoughts to the pavilion master. Let's talk about Murong Qianhua first. If you succeed in the challenge, the real top 10 treatment you will receive will be superimposed with the top 10 treatment you have received in the previous year. Therefore, you don't have to give up at all. You don't have to worry about wasting it. This is a reward for you. Just accept it calmly. The same goes for Fatty's palace. However, you can't live in Chun Si's palace. Our College of Taoism is a first-class college. It's not as casual as second-rate, third-rate, and other low-level colleges. The residential areas of various realms are strictly divided. Even if you're Tao companions, you can't receive special treatment. Moreover, there are many Tao companions of different realms like you. This is one of the reasons. Secondly, the palaces of our College of Taoism, no matter what level they are all condensed for one person. Cultivators who have the same treatment can enter each other's palaces, but cultivators who are not of the same level and treatment cannot enter each other's palaces. This is to prevent some people from letting their friends use their palaces, which would consume too much supply energy and facilities. It can't be. Teacher Tan, isn't this a little too stingy? Tao companions, you don't even give them the right to live together? If you want to live together, you'll have to ascend to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. You'll be in the same realm as Chun Si, and you'll also be in the top 10 palaces. You'll be able to do as you please. No room for discussion? No. At least there's no precedent for it. Is there any other way? I don't want to be separated from Cici. Fatty said in a mushy manner. Even Cixin was disgusted by Fatty. Yes. Cultivators with higher status in their palaces could enter the palaces of lower-level cultivators. The only way was for Chun Si to go to your palace. That way, it wouldn't matter. However, it's fine to go there once in a while, but it's not worth it for Chun Si to stay at your place all the time. She's not using the good cultivation conditions, but using yours. You should be clear about this. Don't even think about sneaking in. That's impossible. All palaces are equipped with a token aura detection function. Unless you meet the conditions to enter, even if the owner allows you to enter, you'll be chased out by the 9-colored celestial light restriction. Fatty's spinning eyes stopped. Damn, isn't the 9-colored celestial light a little too ruthless? Fatty could only give up. This is the guest room of the true Martial Pavilion. You'll be staying here for the next 3 days. Tan Lin Hai said as he led the group to a huge mountain. Chi. After 3 days, when all of your palaces are completed, someone will come to inform you. You can go there directly then. In these 3 days, you can go to the True Martial Pavilion's training hall and the Academy of Taoism's compulsory cultivation hall to take a look. You can choose what you're interested in and what you're required to learn. After you're done, you can go to the Academy of Taoism's Mission Center, Free Trade Hall, Arena, Basic Cultivation Hall, Assessment Center, Weapon Refining Hall, Talisman Refining Hall, Medicine Refining Hall, and some taverns and restaurants for disciples to socialize. You can also go to various associations to take a look. Although you're all geniuses among geniuses, there's still a lot for you to learn in the Academy of Taoism. Do you have any other questions? If you do, you can ask now. If not, I'll go first. No, everyone replied. All right, this is the guest room's token. You can go now. I wish you a good start. Goodbye. Chi. After Tan Lin Hai gave the 6 guest rooms tokens to the 6 of them, he turned into a ray of light and left quickly. Brother Fatty, let's go together tomorrow morning. We'll meet here tomorrow morning. Ling Feng said, Shui Fian, you're coming too. Of course, Xue Fian replied. Although she still gave off a cold vibe, it was good enough that she was able to speak. All right, see you tomorrow. Let's go. Chen Hao looked at Murong Qianhua, who was about to speak to Xue Fian, with obvious disgust. After he finished speaking, he pulled Chen Si and left in a flash. Let's go. Ling Feng and Ao Qian also left quickly. Xue Fian also didn't give Murong Qianhua a chance to speak and disappeared in the afterglow of the setting sun. Phew. A new beginning, Cece. How do you feel? According to the room's number, they entered a spacious cultivation room equipped with a higher level than the Hotel Chen Hao and Si Xian stayed in the true martial city. Chen Hao breathed a sigh of relief and said, It's okay. Fatty, do we have to act like we're stuck together like glue? Or do you really have feelings for me? After Si Xian responded, she suddenly raised her eyebrows and stared at Chen Hao. They were Taoist companions, but only in name. No matter whether they had feelings for each other or not, before they really made it clear, they were pretending. There was no need for them to live together when they each had their own room. However, Fatty acted as if he didn't want to be separated from Si Xian for even a moment in front of others, which made Si Xian feel a little proud and secretly happy. Hearing Si Xian's words, Chen Hao was slightly stunned. Then he narrowed his eyes and said, Yes, Brother Fatty and I have been on the move all this time. After several dangerous interceptions by the Thunder Dragon King, we finally came to a first-rate academy. Moreover, you and I have both obtained the best treatment and settled down. Are we going to consummate our marriage tonight? Isn't that a good idea? Bah, nothing good comes out of dog's mouth. I'm serious. Am I not being serious? Actually, Murong Qianhua's conditions are very good. His appearance, talent, potential, and temperament are all top-notch. Chen Hao suddenly changed the topic. What does it have to do with me? Si Xian frowned. Well said. When your heart belongs to someone, you won't be moved. You see, you're so loyal to me. How can I not be moved? If I'm moved, how can I not want to act? The fusion of yin and yang is the fastest way to reach the depths of each other's souls. Old woman leaning against the wall, drinking porridge. Shameless, despicable, and vulgar. I'm going to the cultivation room. Don't disturb me. Si Xian said with a red face. After saying that, she directly entered the cultivation room. Chen Hao stared at her back and laughed. A new beginning, the beginning of the great world of CND, just like the universities on Earth. Although the learning content was completely different, it made Chen Hao feel excited. And now, it was about to start. Chapter 1238. The night sky was clear, and the stars were bright. Through the window, Chen Hao raised his head and stared at the vast starry sky. The wretched look on his face disappeared and was replaced by a faint longing. It was as if he had seen the other side of the starry sky. He stood there for a long time. After a full hour, a golden rune suddenly flashed between Chen Hao's eyebrows and disappeared in a flash. Immediately, his eyes regained their clarity, and he stepped into the cultivation room. If there was concern in his heart, he couldn't be emotionless. He could only cut off his feelings with the sword of wisdom and temporarily seal them. After sitting cross-legged not far from Si Xian, Chen Hao slowly closed his eyes and began to organize his thoughts. After becoming a disciple of the academy, I have the right to buy the spiritual helmet. I have to quickly gather enough money for Si Xian and me. It should be simple. I just have to sell those junk things. The device used to enter the immortal realm was the same as the second world of the vast universe galaxy. It was also a helmet, and it was also called the spiritual helmet. However, in the great world of C&D, outsiders couldn't get it for free. They had to obtain the right to use it before they could buy it. Moreover, the price was not cheap. This was also one of the main ways the great world of C&D earned treasures from outsiders. At the same time, Chen Hao's interest was piqued because it was similar to the second world. Perhaps he could discover some connection between Yi Lan and the great thousand world of the Celestial Emperors. In addition, according to the information obtained from the Carnage Battle Team, the space of the Celestial Realm was the only way to become a Celestial Emperor. Therefore, this was the first thing Chun Hao had to do. The Ancient Martial Arts Association, the Science Association, the International Musicians Association, the Calligraphy and Painting Association, the Spell Association. I have to go in and take a look. Maybe I can find some ancient secrets and connections with Earth. It wasn't strange for one of these associations to appear, but they all appeared in the University of Dahua, especially the Ancient Martial Arts Association. Chun Hao had a strong intuition that he might be able to find more connections between the great world of CND and Earth in these associations. Earth, ancient chaos, and the immortal emperor. What was the relationship between them? This was what Chun Hao wanted to know the most after discovering the great monk in the ancient chaos desolation domain. Similarly, if Chun Hao wanted to return to Earth and look for Yi Xian, this was also the most crucial point. However, it doesn't seem possible to join all the associations. Let's see how it goes. If it really doesn't work, I'll just go crazy once. After all, I'm not keeping a low profile right now. I need to understand what I can learn from these associations. Chun Hao thought to himself as he made his decision. Previously, when the major associations were recruiting, Chun Hao had been boasting and bragging in everyone's eyes, claiming that he was born strong in all aspects because of this reason. No matter what, he had to get to the bottom of this. When it was time to keep a low profile, he would keep a low profile. When he could no longer keep a low profile, he would go all out. What was there to fear? Chun Hao wanted to improve himself quickly. It was obviously not possible to keep a low profile all the time. In this, the great world of CND, which was full of competition and danger, keeping a low profile was certainly the foundation for survival. However, if one kept too low a profile, it meant that one would give up the chance to gather luck and the opportunity to fight in life and death situations. Without the pressure of these pressures, how could one be fast? Of course, this didn't mean that one had to keep a high profile. Everything had its pros and cons. The most important thing was the word limit. It all depended on how one grasped this limit. From Chun Hao's point of view, even if he was only in his true body, he would be completely exposed. He would always keep a low profile. After all, from the second to sixth animus, each one was more abnormal than the last. They were all wandering in the great world of CND. The seventh anima was in the chaotic universe, where the laws of heaven were not inferior to the great world of CND. He had to start training from scratch. As for the eighth anima, which had just been derived from the will of massacre, it was temporarily sealed in the world of his mind. Its battle strength was not inferior to Chun Hao's original body. Of course, the most important thing is to really learn something. Otherwise, wouldn't joining an academy be a waste of time? Chun Hao carefully sorted out his thoughts. After thinking about his recent plans, he entered a state of cultivation. Currently, he and Si Xian were still in the spurt period of strength improvement. This was the inevitable improvement brought by the first time a cultivator came to the great world of CND and truly integrated into the world. The amount of improvement varied from person to person. Chun Hao's comprehension of the laws of the heavenly Tao allowed him to not improve by much, but Si Xian was clearly different. Just by looking at her rapid improvement and performance during this period of time, one could see that Si Xian was the one who had truly erupted. She was like a dying fish that had returned to the water and rapidly recovered. Her improvement was several times greater than Chun Hao's. At 7 in the morning, the sun rose from the east, bright and beautiful. Chi, chi, chi. 5 streaks of light streaked across the sky. Su Tao, In Su Su, Gong Chao, Guida, and Wang Qingfeng of the Carnage Battle team arrived at the huge square in front of the guest room. Last night, in the immortal realm, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Xuefian had already met up with Su Tao and the others and joined the battle team. Ao Qian had also told them to gather here today and handle the necessary matters with Chun Hao and Si Xian. A battle team had to have a unified schedule and rest schedule. This was the most basic thing. Therefore, it was best to maintain a certain degree of consistency in which teacher's training hall they chose, which mystique and supreme art they learned, and which association they joined. Even if they were different, They had to make sure that most of their free time overlapped. This was the only way to ensure that they could work together in the immortal realm. Chi, Brother Ling Feng, Brother Ao Qian. Just as the five of them stood still, a ray of light flashed from the direction of the guest palace. Su Tao greeted them with a smile. Su Tao, we're on the same side from now on. Just call me Brother Monkey. Ao Qian said boldly. Today, this guy's parted hair was neatly trimmed, and his clothes shone brightly. He looked much more energetic and, of course, much more flamboyant. Yes, Monkey is right. Don't be so distant in the future. Just call me Brother Feng, handsome brother, or Captain. Captain? I think it's more appropriate to call you flamboyant. Even if Sister Yin and I were here, you wouldn't be able to become the captain, let alone Brother Fatty. Monkey, please call me by my full name. Chi. Xuefian suddenly appeared and glared at Ao Qian. Good morning, handsome guys and beautiful ladies. Chun Hao and Si Xian were like a gust of wind, arriving hand in hand. Hello, Brother Fatty, sister-in-law. Ao Qian, who was feeling awkward, jumped in front of Chun Hao and greeted him excitedly. He looked exactly like a little brother. Even Xuefian and the original members of the Carnage Battle team felt a headache coming on, let alone Ling Feng. You're a top genius after all. Although Fatty is more awesome, is there a need to be so admiring? Chapter 1239. Chi. The bright sunlight suddenly disappeared. Chun Hao and the others felt as if they had fallen into endless darkness. Immediately, bright stars rose from the darkness and turned into the disgusting Murong Qianhua in front of everyone's eyes. With a faint smile that was like a spring breeze, a gentle gaze, and a snow-white Taoist robe that fluttered in the wind, he looked like an immortal that had descended to the mortal world. He nodded at Xuefian and Si Xian respectively, and then left. He came in amazement and left gently. F*CK. F*CK. F*CK your mother. Ao Qian, Ling Feng, and Chun Hao almost cursed at the same time. Chun Hao and Ao Qian even raised their middle fingers in the direction of Murong Qianhua's departure at the same time. A despicable person was invincible. Even Chun Hao was a little doubtful that if this continued, he would be disgusted to death by Murong Qianhua, who was unafraid of both soft and hard methods. Such self-restraint, such temperament, and such thick skin, he was definitely the strongest person Chun Hao had ever seen. This son of a bitch, if he didn't show off in front of us, it wouldn't be him. F*CK. Ao Qian said angrily. When I advance to the Supreme of Hongmeng, I will challenge him first. F*CK. I really can't stand it. What a shitty captain of the Starlight Squad. We used to idolize him, but I didn't expect him to be so despicable. Despicable, shameless. He knows that we all hate him, but he deliberately passed by us. Not only that, but he also nodded at sister-in-law, Chun-Si and Fian. Disgusting humph. In Susu couldn't help but say with a look of contempt. Yes, the most disgusting thing is that he dared to ignore our sister Susu. Chun Hao laughed with a big belly, directly speaking in Susu's mind. If it weren't for this, in Susu wouldn't have scolded Murong Qianhua. After all, Murong Qianhua had the strength, the talent, and the image. For example, this was the only way to get out of the guest room area. People couldn't avoid it even if they didn't want to. As for flying like a star, that was his signature move, so it was nothing. The only thing he was thick-skinned about was actually nodding to greet Si Xian and Xuefian. But it was also this that made In Susu extremely unhappy. Although she was not as beautiful as Chun-Si and not as talented as Xuefian, she was still an outstanding beauty, right? Her talent was also at the top of the list. But Murong Qianhua had turned a blind eye to her from 3 days until now. Was she that bad? It had to be said that no woman would think that she was bad. Even if she was really bad compared to the people around her, no one would think that she was bad by much. Brother Fatty, am I that bad? In Susu heard Chun Hao's words and immediately asked, Bad? How? Take a look at how handsome her face is and how supple her skin is. Take a look at her curvy figure, slender waist, and long legs. She is naturally charming. Whether it's appearance or figure, it's enough to put the moon and flowers to shame. Who dares to say that you're bad? Are you blind? The fat man opened his mouth and squinted his small eyes as he looked at Een Susu up and down. Een Susu blushed and was full of joy. Although she felt that what the fatty said was true, it was the first time that she had been praised so boldly and directly, so she couldn't help but feel shy. Xixian despised him in her heart, but she smiled and didn't say anything. She hadn't reached the point where she couldn't even tell if a joke was real or fake. Really, now that Brother Fatty said it, I feel that Sister Susu is really beautiful. Ao Qian also widened his eyes and touched the back of his head. His eyes followed Fatty's words and looked at Een Susu. Monkey, so you didn't think that Susu was beautiful before. Are you blind? Ling Feng's eyes also swept over Een Susu and immediately looked at Ao Qian. Damn, you're the one who's blind. I just didn't look carefully before and didn't notice it. Didn't notice, didn't feel, just blind. You're the same as that pretentious guy. I've long felt that Sister Susu is a flower of carnage. Damn, wait. Chi. Just as Ling Feng and Ao Qian were about to fight again and couldn't stop, Chen Hao pulled Xixian and looked at each other and moved together. Xuefian didn't hesitate at all, but still didn't reveal any emotions. If it wasn't for her monstrous talent and strength, her presence would be almost non-existent. The huge square at the entrance of the University of Daoist Hall was crowded with people. Only a small portion of them were new students, and most of them were old students. Each association was divided into a certain area, and there was an on-site assessment to recruit members. Both new and old students had the qualifications to take the assessment. In fact, most of the old students were here to watch the fun. Only a small portion of them wanted to take part in some association's assessment. Senior brothers, senior sisters, junior brothers and sisters, don't be anxious. Line up in order. Remember, you can't use any runes. What you can do is to integrate your state of mind into it. Also, you have to copy these two works. Regardless of whether you choose calligraphy or painting, it has to be one of these two works. Our evaluation committee will give you an overall score based on your copy. Copy? We have to copy? Can we use the contents of these two works freely? Of course. However, I don't recommend that. Unless you have the confidence to surpass these two works. Copying is to test your basic skills. As long as you pass the basic skills, you can naturally become a member of the Painting and Calligraphy Association. However, if you want to use it freely, unless you display enough strength and are recognized by everyone present, you won't be able to pass. Ah, you're Fatty Li Yuan. That's right. Fatty Li Yuan held up his big belly and said frankly. The first place they arrived at was the University of Daoist Hall. Only here could they choose the number of compulsory classes and the main lecturer. Once they chose, they couldn't change it. Furthermore, the time was fixed. Of course, this was also what the University of Daoist Hall valued the most. Otherwise, it wouldn't have become a compulsory class. It was also because of this that new disciples would usually be the first to arrive here. They would first set the time of the compulsory class, then set the time of the various pavilions. At the same time, it was also because of this reason that after the recruitment every 10 years, this place would become the gathering place for the various large associations to recruit new disciples. Fatty Li? Many people heard the words of the people from the Painting and Calligraphy Association and looked in Fatty Li's direction. This Fatty is Fatty Fart King Li Yuan. The beauty beside him is his Dao companion, the beauty of the Everlasting Academy, Chun Si. That's Queen of Ice Xuefian. That's Little Wind King Ling Feng. That's Little Monkey King Ao Qian. The rest are the members of the Carnage Battle Team. Someone in the crowd introduced softly to the others. In front of the names of Chun Hao and the rest, there were nicknames. It was definitely an honor for cultivators to be given nicknames. In fact, in most cases, only the top monstrous geniuses in the academy had the possibility of being given nicknames. However, Fatty Li's nickname was actually Fart King. Chapter 1240. The origin of the Fart King was naturally due to the but divine technique that Chun Hao had casually mentioned during his battle with Wan Yishui. The so-called but divine technique was actually completely unnecessary. The mysterious runes that were condensed on his, but could be condensed anywhere on his body by Chun Hao. To put it bluntly, it was similar to Xue Fian's physical body. However, Chun Hao's runes were not inherited runes, but condensed by himself and could wander around his body at any time. Chun Si, who was also Si Xian's nickname, directly became the flower of the Everlasting Academy. There was no way around it. Si Xian, who did not age, was not inferior to Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, Hu Meinyang, and the others. Moreover, because of her cultivation level, experience, and age, her temperament was better. In addition, the human race had been rich in top-grade beauties since ancient times. After coming to the great world of CND, Si Xian was indeed a top-grade beauty in terms of appearance. She was worthy of being called the flower of the Everlasting Academy. Xue Fian's nickname was Ice Queen. She did not have a primordialine body. Most people thought that her position was taken by someone else. She had a cold expression and rarely showed any emotions, so she was called Ice Queen. The word queen in the secular world meant the wife of an emperor, and it was the legal wife. Here, it was used to describe the woman of a true immortal king. Ling Feng, young Lord Feng Ling, and young Lord Fan were two people. The first was naturally his name, which was one of the legendary 8 great true immortal kings who had disappeared, but the order was reversed. In addition to his amazing talent and potential, there was almost no doubt that he would become a true immortal king in the future. Even becoming a king was not impossible. Therefore, it was reasonable for him to be called Young Lord Fengling. The second was Young Lord Fan, who dared to show off in front of the dean, deputy dean, and a group of big figures with a folding fan. He was definitely the first person in the Dahua school to show off his cool. Ao Qian was called the Little Monkey King because of both his talent and his appearance. In the great world of CND, the Monkey Clan was a powerful clan that was not inferior to the ancient Dragon Clan, especially the king bloodline of the Monkey Clan, which was more violent and powerful than the true Dragon King bloodline. As for Ao Qian, he looked like a monkey and was called Monkey by Fatty Li Yuan and Ling Feng many times in public, so he was naturally called the Little Monkey King. Fatty, Brother Li Yuan, if you wish to join the Painter Association, there's no need for you to take a test. We can make an exception for you. The Painter Association cultivator hurriedly cupped his fists when he received Fatty's confirmation. Now, everyone knew that Fatty, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Xue Fian, the 4 monstrous geniuses, seemed to have formed a team. Moreover, it seemed like Fatty, who had scored first in the assessment, was the leader. If Fatty joined any association, it would mean that all 4 of them would join at the same time. How great would the impact be? One only needed to look at the true Martial Pavilion's complete victory in the recruitment this time to understand. It doesn't matter if I make an exception or not. Fatty, am a natural-born talent in calligraphy and painting. Fatty bro, let's go. What's so good about the Painting and Calligraphy Association? We'll discuss which one to join after the official ceremony. Anyway, Fatty bro, you were born to be a genius of the various large associations. If they don't recruit you, it would be a loss to them, the University of Fine Arts, and even the great world of CND. Let's go. Ao Qian hurriedly pulled Chun Hao back when he saw the Fatty's gaze lingering on the 2 paintings for the examinees to copy for a long time. It seemed like the Fatty was interested in joining in. Fatty, the International Musicians Association, is much better than the Painting and Calligraphy Association. Painting and painting are not suitable for us. Ling Feng also stepped forward and said, "Who said that?" I, Fatty bro, am a natural-born talent in calligraphy and painting. Of course, in terms of technology, sound waves, ancient martial arts, incantations, and so on, I, Fatty bro, am equally impressive. In short, as long as there are no restrictions, I, Fatty Bro, will join all the large associations. Fine, from the looks of it. You don't believe me at all, right? Today, I'll make an exception and let you admire my talent in calligraphy and painting. Puffed. Fatty Bro seemed to be a little neurotic. Not only did he not listen to Ao, Qian, and Ling Feng's suggestions, he even pushed the two of them away and went to the back of the queue for the assessment arrogantly. He turned a blind eye to the surrounding cultivators who were watching. Ling Feng and Ao Qian didn't think much of it. After all, they were also flashy and wished that they could attract people's attention at any time. Naturally, they understood Fatty Bro's sensationalism very well. The only thing was that at this moment, when they saw Fatty Bro being serious, it meant that Fatty Bro should have some skills in calligraphy and painting. Fatty Bro, come. I'll let you go first. Fatty Bro, I'll let you go first. Fatty Bro, you go first. Crash. There was basically no suspense. The moment Fatty Bro reached the back of the queue, the other cultivators who were waiting for the assessment all turned to the side and let Fatty Bro take the lead without even thinking about it. Thank you, senior brothers and sisters, junior brothers and sisters. I'm sorry. Fatty Bro cupped his fists and nodded repeatedly, directly walking to the front of the assessment team. There was a long table condensed from a divine ability. On the table, there was a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. On the left was writing and calligraphy, and on the right was painting. There were only 4 words to be copied in the calligraphy examination: wind, rain, snow, thunder, and wind, rain, snow, and thunder. Basically, it could be completed in a few minutes. Therefore, there was no one testing at the moment. In the drawing seat, there was a young man with an ordinary aura but delicate appearance sitting there. He was halfway through his drawing when he stopped and looked at Chun Hao, who had sat down. The number 1 fart king, Fatty Li Yuan, a natural talent in calligraphy and painting. Ha! The delicate and pretty youth frowned slightly. There was a hint of disdain in his slanted gaze as he spoke in a strange tone. That laughter made people feel a strong sense of ridicule. Is this guy crazy? Ha, your mother. Fatty Bro was very unhappy, but he didn't explode. He only looked at the other person with disdain. When he saw the half-completed work in front of him, Chun Hao's eyes lit up. Even he couldn't help but secretly praise. In terms of cultivation, it's true that you're a top monstrous genius, but little Fatty, cultivation talent doesn't mean that you have talent in calligraphy and painting. Similarly, the importance of talent in calligraphy and painting is far from the importance of cultivation talent in cultivation. The delicate and pretty youth said proudly, his tone filled with a lecturing tone. Pretty boy, what do you want to say? What I want to say is very simple. Calligraphy and painting need talent, but that's the most important thing. What it really needs is inheritance and inheritance. It requires years of hard work, or even a lifetime of hard work to accumulate over time and naturally form. Good talent doesn't mean that you can quickly reach a high realm. Continuous hard work, frequent reading, frequent writing, and frequent painting, paying attention to everything, persevering until it's naturally beautiful. That's the highest realm. Remember, calligraphy and painting can't be achieved in a day. There's another point. Like and love, then you have to give them sufficient respect. With your attitude towards calligraphy and painting, the Calligraphy and Painting Association should reject you. Voila! The heck? Who is this? Why is he so arrogant? Ao Qian and Ling Feng were stunned. Even though the young man who spoke was a supreme martial artist of Hongming, his aura wasn't strong at all. Among those of the same level, he was at the bottom. But at this moment, when he was lecturing, Chun Hao's expression was like that of a high and mighty emperor, looking down on the world and looking down on everything. Well said. Calligraphy and painting do require time to settle down. Otherwise, no matter how high one's talent is, it would be useless. The painting is also very good. Even though it isn't finished yet, the skill is already showing. It seems very impressive. The judges of the Calligraphy and Painting Association expressed their approval of the young man's words. At the same time, they sized up the other party's unfinished work and confirmed that this young man was definitely a painting expert. Chapter 1241. The young man looked directly at the fatty, who was a little stunned by his words. He shook his head and sighed softly. Then he turned around. In an instant, his expression entered a state of indifference and detachment. His aura was still weak, but there was a subtle change with the brush in his hand. This aura was not produced by any magical laws or energy. It was a pure emotion that came from the depths of his heart. It could be said to be the most realistic portrayal of the young man's current state of mind. The clamor and discussions of the outside world had nothing to do with him. He was already immersed in his own world. Good. Amazing. I didn't expect that there would be such a genius in calligraphy and painting among the freshmen. Although he hasn't reached the level of shocking the wind and rain, he's not far from it. Painting is born from the heart, from the brush, and from the paper. It's vivid on the paper and has reached perfection. It's obvious that he has understood the essence of the president's work in his first copy. An expert. In an instant, the young man won the praise of countless people who were proficient in calligraphy and painting. Some of the young ladies who were queuing up for the assessment looked at the handsome young man with stars in their eyes. It could be said that when a young man started to paint, he didn't attract the attention of the crowd at all. This was because the aura emitted by this handsome young man was too weak. This was one of the reasons. Secondly, and more importantly, when the young man was painting, he didn't emit such a weak but subtle aura. Although his painting was not bad, who would think that he was bad? But now, the young man seemed to want to teach the fatty who disrespected calligraphy and painting a lesson, so he displayed his highest standard. Pa, 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 Wong. Following that, an even more shocking scene appeared. Even Chun Hao, who wanted to see how strong the person who taught him was and how pretentious he was, couldn't help but be immersed in it when his gaze followed the brush in the young man's hand. As the young man's brush moved, it was as if notes were jumping in everyone's hearts. After a few strokes, it was as if lotus flowers were blooming from the young man's brush. Flowers under the brush. Based on Chun Hao's memories from Earth, the phrase blooming flowers under his pen was just an adjective used to describe a scholar's talent and outstanding writing. But now, the delicate and pretty young man had demonstrated a kind of artistic conception that came from the depths of his heart in front of everyone, and it had infected everyone present. At this moment, the image of the handsome young man suddenly became tall and mighty in the eyes of the crowd. His body naturally emitted a golden holy light, as if a painting saint had descended upon him. The judges from the Painter Association were all dumbfounded. When a piece of work was completed, everyone walked out of the young people's artistic conception. At this time, the young man's expression was still meticulous. He gently raised a stream of clear water to clean the set of brushes he had brought with him and put them into his mind space. At this time, the young man looked at Chun Hao again. He didn't say anything, but his eyes clearly indicated that he wanted Chun Hao to start writing. Brother Fatty, that's enough. Painting isn't something that can be mastered overnight. Let's go and get down to business. A.O. Chien said, trying to diffuse the situation. Although A.O. Chien wasn't proficient, he still knew a little and had a good eye. This pretty boy's painting skills were definitely as high as a few mountains, and he indeed had the qualifications to lecture Fatty. In fact, after hearing the young man's lofty words and the profound foundation he displayed in painting, the surrounding cultivators were already convinced. In particular, some of the true lovers of painting and calligraphy felt that the young man's words made sense. The fatty's words and actions were indeed disrespectful and looked down on painting and calligraphy. Fatty, you can't leave. We still want to see what a natural talent in painting is like. Fatty, let's start. We're waiting. Some people jeered. Ha! Brother Fatty, you're a top-notch monster in cultivation, but painting isn't as simple as you think. This young man is a true expert. But then again, with your talent, you're naturally much better than the average person if you want to learn painting well. Our Painting and Calligraphy Association can still make an exception and recruit you. As for copying, I think there's no need for that. Everyone, Don't make things difficult for Fatty. A cultivator sitting in the middle of the judges suddenly stood up and looked at Chun Hao and the young man. The moment this person spoke, the surrounding cultivators stopped jeering and discussing. It was obvious that among the older students, this person was very famous and had a lot of prestige. Without waiting for Chun Hao to speak, the person who stood up looked at the handsome young man and cupped his fists. If I'm not wrong, this brother should be our big star Tang family's Tang Hu, right? Crash. The moment the two words Tang Hu came out, the surrounding cultivators cried out in surprise. The cultivators, who were already shocked by the young man's godly painting skills, all revealed expressions of realization and excitement. Tang Hu. He's actually Tang Hu, the head of the four great scholars. Tang Hu. No wonder he has such exquisite and profound painting skills. A buzzing sound of discussion erupted in the crowd. It said that our president admires Tang Hu a lot. Isn't that so? The president often copies Tang Hu's works. When he communicates with us, he always mentions it. However, why would he come to our academy and take the test? He's a monstrous genius from a top academy. Yeah, I find it strange too. However, from the looks of it, perhaps the agreement has just expired and he was poached by our academy with a super high treatment? It's very possible. The ancient disguise technique passed down in the Tang family is really powerful. Do you think this is Tang Hu's true appearance? The Tang family had an ancient disguise technique. Although they were unable to change their body shape and appearance, like the Great Change technique, they were able to change their appearance and aura within a small area, which was equivalent to the ultimate state of the Great Change technique. No one would be able to sense it. Therefore, in the Tang family, as long as one had some talent, they would definitely not be ugly. To be exact, they really didn't know what the real appearance was. Who knows? There are at least 80, if not 100 images. How would we know what the real appearance is? I only know that no matter what, from today onwards, this great beauty, the president, can forget about it. Hearing the discussions around him, the handsome youth shook his head slightly, then frowned and cupped his fists towards the person who spoke. Brother, you have good eyesight. Could it be that I revealed some traces when I was painting? The young man's words undoubtedly admitted his identity, Tang Hu. And the reason he asked this was because he had concealed his technique when he was painting, copying. What he had to do was to forget himself. Tang Hu was the grandson of the Tang family's patriarch, who had inherited the great scholar's legacy. More than 10,000 years ago, he was known as the head of the four great scholars. As the patriarch of the great scholar's legacy, calligraphy was naturally his specialty. However, to be able to become the head of the four great scholars, just relying on calligraphy was obviously not enough. His attainments in painting and music were also outstanding, not inferior to his calligraphy in the slightest. As for the top academies, Big Brother, if you weren't a direct descendant of Dehua, you would have been able to enter even if it was the #1 academy of the immortal emperor. There's no need to be humble. Big Brother's attainments in painting and calligraphy are indeed not as good as yours. Morong Qianhua's smile grew wider. What surprised many people was that Tang Hu, the leader of the great four scholars, who had been in the top academy for more than 10,000 years, was actually buddies with the captain of the Starlight battle team, Morong Qianhua. Moreover, from their conversation, Tang Hu was ranked 3rd, and Morong Qianhua was the eldest. However, the cultivators who had some understanding of the Starlight squad immediately knew Tang Hu's name in the immortal realm as well as his position in the Starlight squad. Su Tao and the others from the Carnage battle team were even more stunned. On the other hand, Morong Qianhua and Tang, who were complimenting each other and chatting affectionately, they completely ignored the people around them and didn't even look at Fatty. It was as if Tang Hu's words against Fatty had not been said at all. F***CK. La. Go. Wall. No wonder he was against me. It turns out that he's in cahoots with this B******. F***CK. Fatty, who had been holding back his words, finally understood at this moment. The fat on Fatty's face trembled slightly. He squinted his small eyes and looked at the two fellows who were still complimenting each other, as if there was no one else around. He reached out and picked up the writing brush on the table. Ha ha ha! At this moment, a loud laugh suddenly broke through the air. Big brother, third brother, no matter what, he's still the number one of this year's Daluo Golden Wonderland. His assessment results are also a rare existence in Dahua Academy. Although his character and virtue are a little bad, you can't ignore it too much, right? Look at his eyes. It's as if they're about to burst into flames. I still have to write. Could it be that he's really a natural talent in calligraphy and painting? I don't care if you believe it or not, but I do. I'll wait and see. Second brother, Murong Qianhua, seemed to be extremely surprised. Second brother, haha, Tang Hu chuckled. He was relatively calm, as if he had already known that the other party would come. Big brother, don't be surprised. Third brother has long wanted to come to the Hua Academy for teacher ruling, and your appearance has made him determined to come. We've already discussed it before. Since third brother is coming, how can the three of us be absent? From now on, we're not just roaming the celestial world. Ha ha ha. Second brother, you're from the Hua Academy. Big brother, stop. I've already been in the Hua Academy for 1,000 years. I've enjoyed everything that I can. The only thing that can really improve myself is still my own conditions and experience. The treatment is not very important to me. The most important thing is to shine the light of the stars on the great world of CND and embark on the road to becoming an immortal emperor. The three of them talked loudly and changed the topic again. They were blatantly telling everyone that little fatty Li Yuan was nothing in their eyes. Their seemingly casual conversation revealed an aura of superiority. The moment they opened their mouths, they talked about top academies, the Hua Academy, and the Four Great Talents. They were high-end and classy, making everyone envious and jealous. Even Chun Hao was a little surprised. He didn't expect that a talent from a top academy would come. Moreover, it was a person from the Hua Academy. The Hua Academy was the only one in the great world of CND who had this name. Moreover, it was the #1 academy among the top academies. Si Xian, who originally didn't care about the fatty's nonsense, became slightly nervous at this moment. The violent Ao Qian, the flamboyant Ling Feng, and even the expressionless Xue Fian, who had joined the Carnage battle team, frowned. Their eyes shone brightly and became serious. The original members of the Carnage battle team, Su Tao, and the rest felt even more pressure. They already knew that the Starlight battle team was powerful, but they didn't expect that they would be so powerful after hiding their identities in the celestial world. At the same time, they also understood that the reason why the Starlight battle team was known as the #1 battle team in the Great Transforming Star was because of these two demonic talents. Tang Hu's secret technique of disguising one's aura was hidden even from Chun Hao, who didn't use his fiery golden eyes. However, this cultivator from the Hua Academy, who was ranked second, didn't hide his aura at all. He gave off the feeling that he wasn't any weaker than Murong Qianhua. Second update. Sorry, the fatty used the name Li Yuan, not Li Yang. It was a typo and has been corrected. Chapter 1243. This is Xian Yuanshan from the Xian Yuan family. Nonsense. In the past 1,000 years, only Xian Yuanshan has reached the first academy in our Great Transforming Star. Who doesn't know that he is Xian Yuanshan? Although the identity of the second who appeared was not mentioned, the people present easily confirmed his identity based on his realm, life aura, and the fact that he was a disciple of the first academy of the Immortal Emperor and a member of the Starlight Squad. The disciples of the first academy of the Immortal Emperor were all from the 3,000 main planets of the great world of CND. As one of the 3,000 main planets, the great planet naturally had monstrous geniuses who became disciples of the first academy of the Immortal Emperor. However, Daluo Jingxian and Supreme Hongmeng were two cultivators who belonged to the young category. There might not even be one in 1,000 years. After all, the first academy, which stood out from the 100 top academies, would not absorb so many people like the first-rate academies. It was better to have nothing than to have something substandard. All the newly recruited disciples were top existences in the top academies. Who didn't know Xian Yuanshan, who was famous in the great transforming star 1,000 years ago? Similarly, the teams in the immortal world space were divided by the main planets they came from. Since this second could be a member of the Starlight Squad, he was undoubtedly from the great transforming star. When these points were combined, the result was obvious. The loud talk of Murong Qianhua and the other two resounded in the ears of every cultivator, attracting everyone's attention. The appearance of Xian Yuanshan and Tang, who made everyone have a clearer understanding of Murong Qianhua's strength. The green leaves that were willing to submit to him and set him off were such powerful figures. How strong was he? Fatty was slightly surprised and unhappy at the same time. Whether it was the god of slaughter Chun Hao or the current fart king Li Yuan, when would Fatty's limelight be overshadowed by others? Now, Fatty was holding the pen, but there was not even a spectator. How could he achieve his goal in such a situation? Fatty naturally could not write for a long time. Whoosh. Noisy. Just as Fatty was waiting gloomily, Ling Feng, who was frowning and pondering, suddenly opened his folding fan with a whoosh and reprimanded in the direction of the three people at the same time. Don't you see what Fatty is trying to do? This is the examination ground of the Painting and Calligraphy Association. It's not a place for you to flatter each other and show off in front of everyone. Have some self-awareness, all right? Ling Feng waved his folding fan lightly and walked out from the crowd. He walked toward the long table where the Painting and Calligraphy Association's examination was held. What are you? Do you think you have the right to tell us what to do? F***CK. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're so awesome? Bah. Since all of you are bragging by the side, no one will care about you. This is the examination hall of the Painter Association. Do you understand? The image shows us brothers, understand? What's there to be proud of? Top Academy, for great scholars, #1 Academy, so what? Bah. Before Ling Feng could say anything, Eo Qian jumped up with a bang and said with disdain and hostility, "Reckless fool." Boom. The second brother, Xian Yuanshan, said sternly. At the same time, all the hair on his body suddenly stood up. A majestic and terrifying pressure directly pressed down on Ao Qian and Ling Feng, who had stepped forward. Second brother, Murong Qianhua, called out casually, "Big brother, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I won't do anything. This kind of clown, thank goodness you're aloof and don't lower yourself to their level. But this kind of person doesn't want face. I'll help you teach him a lesson." Xian Yuanshan said proudly. Murong Qianhua shook his head slightly and said with a helpless smile, "Second brother, you're impulsive. Why do you have to lower yourself to the level of such people? Forget it, it's up to you." The two of them echoed each other, and it was really impressive to the extreme. However, it had to be said that the pressure released by Xian Yuanshan, who was at the peak of the Grand Miss Supremacy realm, was very terrifying. However, although Ling Feng and Ao Qian from the Daluo Golden Wonderland were top geniuses, so was the other party. Moreover, they were from the #1 Academy, the strongest academy in the great world of C&D. How could they be weak? Therefore, Ling Feng and Ao Qian were imprisoned by Xian Yuanshan's pressure in an instant. Although Xian Yuanshan had a sense of propriety and the two of them would not be injured, the sudden pressure on their bodies and souls caused them to fall into a painful struggle. In a situation where they were all top geniuses, the gap of a large realm was indeed not something that Ling Feng and Ao Qian could contend with. F***CKU. How dare you threaten me? Don't force me. Boom. At this time, Ling Feng actually stroked the hair on his forehead and said with a cold gaze, "Haha, how dare you provoke us and my big brother? You don't know your place. If it weren't for the restriction of the rules, I, Xian Yuanshan, could kill you with one slap. And this pig." Boom, 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 boom. Just as Xian Yuanshan finished speaking, Si Xian took a step forward. Si Xian was the only one from the Grand Miss Supremacy realm among them. Ling Feng and Ao Qian stood up for Chun Hao. How could she not stand up? Shuefian stepped out almost at the same time as Si Xian. Then, Su Tao and the other 5 members of the Carnage battle team took a deep breath and followed. However, Chun Hao, who was the closest to Ling Feng and Ao Qian and was known as the Pig, was even faster. Everyone only saw a blur before their eyes. Fatty's fat jiggled, but his mountain-like figure appeared in front of Ling Feng and Ao Qian. At the same time, his meaty hands turned into 5 phantoms, blocking Su Tao and the other 5 who were about to rush into the range of pressure to lighten Ling Feng and Ao Qian's burden. It's just pressure. With me here, what's the hurry? Don't use your trump card when you're impulsive. That thing is prepared for the life and death realm. Put it away. Fatty looked at Ling Feng and Ao Qian and transmitted his voice. He looked relaxed, as if he was not affected by the pressure at all. Ling Feng and Ao Qian were stunned. However, Fatty did not give them a chance to speak. He turned to Su Tao and the others and transmitted his voice. This is not the time to test the unity of the battle team. There will be no life and death. Are you looking for trouble? Just stand aside. You guys go out too. Men solve men's problems. This time, Fatty did not transmit his voice but said directly. Si Xian didn't think much of it. Even she didn't know how strong the unfathomable Fatty was. Even if the other party was very, very strong and a whole realm higher, Si Xian didn't take it to heart. He could escape from the Thunder Dragon King, who was at the 4th level of cutting path true immortal. Even if the Thunder Dragon King's talent was not as good as Xian Yuanqin's, his realm was much higher. How could he be worse than Xian Yuanqin? At least, Si Xian felt that the strength of the pressure was very different. When Shuefian heard Chun Hao's words, she frowned slightly. She was obviously unhappy. She glared at Chun Hao and ignored him, standing there motionless. Fatty shrugged indifferently and turned to look at Murong Qianhua. Yes, he was looking at Murong Qianhua, not Xian Yuanqin, who was interested and wanted to see how Chun Hao would do. Chapter 1244. Your brother? It seems that you don't take what I said to you last time seriously. Chi. As the fatty spoke, he made a grabbing motion in the direction of the Painter Association's testing table, and the chair appeared before him. At the same time, he dipped the brush in his hand into the ink. Are you serious? The fatty's action stunned the surrounding cultivators. They all widened their eyes in shock. Xian Yuanqin's coercion had not been removed. Judging from the auras and expressions of Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Shuefian, it was obvious that Xian Yuanqin's coercion was very strong. However, the fatty, whose fat was trembling, did not release any aura to resist the coercion. Instead, he pulled the examination table in front of him and dipped it into the ink calmly. It was as if the coercion had no effect on him. Are you talking to me? Murong Qianhua frowned. Doggy, you are so naughty. Didn't you transform into a human and speak a long time ago? I said that I can't stand dogs biting people. Take care of your brother. Don't come out and bite him. Otherwise, if I accidentally hit him too hard, he will die. Why don't you listen? Do you think these 2 dogs are more powerful than the last one? Do you think you can intimidate me with some *T coercion? The fatty's fat hand twirled the brush with his thumb and index finger. After dipping it into the black ink slab, he gently stroked the tip of the brush on the edge of the ink slab and squinted. Other than the fatty's voice, everyone else was silent. The fatty, who seemed to be playing it down, actually shocked everyone. No one cared about the fatty's non-standard or stupid way of holding the brush. Especially Xian Yuanqin, who was even more shocked. He naturally knew how strong the coercion he released was. Furthermore, he had already shifted the center of his pressure on a fatty and was increasing it continuously. However, Fatty, who clearly did not put up any resistance, was not affected at all. Even the hand holding the pen did not tremble in the slightest. If it were not for Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Shuefian, everyone would have suspected that the fatty could not withstand Xian Yuanqin's coercion. Everyone could not help but be shocked. Ao Qian, Ling Feng, Shuefian, and the members of the Carnage battle team recalled what Fatty had said to Ao Qian after the endurance test. Back then, Ao Qian had asked Fatty how long he could last. Fatty had first stretched out 3 fingers, then 5. Ao Qian had guessed that Fatty could last for 3 to 5 hours, but Fatty had denied it and concluded that it was 3 to 5 minutes. He didn't believe Fatty's roar of 3 to 5 days at all. And now, I don't care if you believe it or not, but I do. This was what Ao Qian and the others thought. It was only at this moment that they realized that Fatty's ability to withstand pressure far exceeded their imagination. You're really good at pretending. Don't hold it in and get internal injuries. That's not my responsibility, Xin Yuanshan said, quietly increasing his pressure. As long as one did not make a move, and at the same time controlled the intensity of the fire and did not cause any substantial harm to the cultivator, there was no problem in the academy. You can't hurt people, but you can humiliate them. This was similar to verbal insults. Intensifying the conflict and increasing the conflict was also a factor that promoted the improvement of the cultivator. It was also because of this that Xin Yuanshan dared to do this. Vulgar. Just like what Big Brother said, you're just a petty person who likes to flaunt your tongue. He did have the strength, but this kind of conduct really made people not dare to compliment him. Words reflect the person. Don't come out and make a fool of yourself, so as to avoid insulting everyone's eyes and wasting paper and ink. After a short period of shock, the head of the 4 great scholars, Tang Hu, stared at Chun Hao with a gaze filled with disdain as he spoke. Boom! Whoosh! Just as Tang Hu finished speaking, Fatty's eyes suddenly shot out a crystal light, like 2 laser beams looking straight at him. At this moment, Tang Hu felt as if his eyes had been blinded, and there was a loud bang in his head. In an instant, the entire world seemed to have turned into a world of raging winds. Wind! Tang Hu almost whispered, and let out a syllable from his roar. The surrounding people did not feel anything at first, and did not see any abnormalities in Fatty's eyes. The only thing they saw was that after Fatty glanced at Tang Hu with a smile full of disdain and contempt, the hand that was holding the brush suddenly changed into an authentic gesture of holding a brush, and the full tip of the brush suddenly fell. But the moment Tang Hu said the word wind, everyone's mind was captured by the artistic conception that blossomed from Fatty's brush. There was no blossoming from the brush, but the artistic conception of raging winds was like a new world that appeared under Fatty's brush. The brush was full of ink, and the force penetrated the back of the paper. The artistic conception of the raging winds was vividly reflected in the flamboyant wind character. Fatty did not stop. Different artistic conceptions of the word wind were born under his brush. Raging wind, storm, whirlwind, breeze. Even warm wind, cool wind, cold wind, hot wind, and other wind that affected one's mood were performed by the focused Fatty under his brush. Words from the heart. Words like a painting. Words like a painting. Vice President Yi Qian, who was proficient in calligraphy, and the judges all stared at Fatty's brush and muttered to themselves. Words like a painting. On the surface, it meant that the words were beautiful like a painting, but the meaning contained here was not so simple. Instead, the state of mind revealed in the words made the surrounding cultivators involuntarily fall into its artistic conception. It was like a dream, an illusion, and a painting. Although this did not reach the realm of blossoming flowers under Tang Hu's brush, the artistic conception revealed was not inferior to Tang Hu's at all. It was just that Tang Hu was painting and Fatty was writing. What was even more shocking was that Fatty, who could not use divine powers and could only write with the most basic ability of mortals, actually displayed a strong foundation and skill. The lines under his brush could not be completely described by using force to penetrate the back of the paper. The reason was that it presented a three-dimensional feeling. If anyone knew that Chun had been practicing the carving technique that his father had taught him since he was young, it would not be strange. That was the heart formula that restrained all energy and allowed one's body and mind to integrate with all things in the world. What was the most important thing about such a heart formula? The state of mind that integrated with all things in the world. When had Chun, however, stopped practicing since he was young? Every flight that integrated with all things in the world was equivalent to a practice of the carving technique. The texture of the life trajectory of all things would clearly appear in his mind. It was normal for such a state of mind to integrate into the tip of his brush and produce such an amazing effect. Hiss, Xian Yuanshan, who was increasing the strength of his pressure and wanted to make Fatty unable to continue pretending, forgot to continue under the influence of Chun Hao's brush strokes, causing the pressure to dissipate. After Fatty wrote more than 10 artistic conceptions of the word wind, he suddenly raised the tip of his brush, suspended in the air for a breath, and fell again. Chapter 1245. Voila! The word rain was formed like a torrential downpour. Then, like the word wind, the Fatty wrote all kinds of artistic conceptions. What was even more amazing was that every word rain echoed with the previous word wind. A gale against a torrential rain, a breeze against a drizzle. It was natural, and the brush intent was continuous. When the word snow was formed, the world was white and spotless. The fluttering snowflakes filled the world and were wrapped in silver. The artistic conception contained made everyone present feel as if they were in a world of ice and snow. They turned into snow elves, dancing between heaven and earth. Crack! The tip of the brush turned rapidly, and like thunder descending, the word thunder came crashing down. Before everyone's state of mind could come out of the ice and snow, it suddenly turned into the sound of thunder. The rumbling of winter thunder was rare. However, under Chun Hao's brush intent, it was as if it was natural and continuous. What made many people cry out in surprise was that the lightning that poured down actually gave people a momentum, as if the 9 levels of heavenly punishment were descending. Good writing. The artistic conception is natural. It's really wonderful. His skills are also very deep. Without tens of thousands of years. Cough, cough. The Fatty is only very young. It seems that he is indeed a natural talent in calligraphy and painting. That's right, that's right. Especially, he even withstood Xian Yuanshan's pressure at the beginning. It's really incredible. I think the nickname of the Fart King has been changed. The Fatty looks unrestrained and frivolous on the surface, but his words are like his person. How can he be a rough person if he can reach the realm of calligraphy and painting? Countless exclamations of admiration erupted from the crowd. No one expected the Fatty's calligraphy level to be so high. Especially with the Fatty's age, it was impossible for him to have a long accumulation of foundation and skills. The only explanation was that the Fatty's talent in calligraphy and painting was extraordinary. 1 year was equivalent to 10 or even 100 years of work for others. A natural talent in calligraphy and painting. Originally, everyone treated it as a joke, but now, good writing. It's really rare to be able to write such an artistic conception and novelty. I, Tang Hu, have underestimated you. After Tang Hu withdrew his gaze from the Fatty's words, he looked at the Fatty and said, "But, is this really calligraphy?" Tang Hu's words stunned many people present. If this was not calligraphy, then what was it? Even the Fatty looked at Tang Hu in surprise. Rather than saying that your calligraphy is like a painting, it would be better to say that your calligraphy is like a painting. Calligraphy. True calligraphy did not rely on such fancy techniques to forcefully gain an artistic conception. Calligraphy was like the Tao, and the Tao followed nature. It is indescribably wondrous, returning to one's original simplicity. Within the formlessness and formlessness, one's true intent is fully revealed. This is the true artistic conception of calligraphy. Tang Hu spoke frankly with assurance. His imposing manner was overbearing. The imposing manner of the leader of the 4 great scholars was fully displayed. At first, everyone only felt that it was good and could not see any flaws at all. However, after hearing Tang Hu's words and taking a closer look, they immediately felt that it was really the case. Indeed, it wasn't the legendary, picturesque calligraphy, but the wondrous artistic conception brought about by the picturesque calligraphy. This was equivalent to putting the cart before the horse. In the end, he was at a disadvantage. It was just like some of the picturesque calligraphy works on Earth that deliberately used pictographs to express themselves. Although they were beautiful, they were still considered sensationalist and not the embodiment of true skill. Well said, young Master Tang. At this moment, a gentle, pleasant, elegant, and ladylike voice suddenly descended from a void, followed by two figures. Teacher Rulin. Hello, Teacher Rulin. Hello, President. IF***CK. What a beautiful woman. What a beautiful woman. The two figures broke through the void and descended, directly causing the crowd to explode. The cultivators who were originally queuing up for the examination in other associations could not care less at this moment. The examinees had already run over. What was there for them to queue for? Two people, one woman, the other woman. The person who spoke was the woman, the teacher with the highest attainment in calligraphy and painting in the department of Dahua, Teacher Rulin. The woman's brows were thin and curved like willow leaves. Her eyes were clear and flawless like cut water, and her skin was so delicate that it could be broken by the wind. Her beautiful black hair was tied up high, and inserted into it was simple and elegant with a purple phoenix pattern wooden hairpin. It was simple and plain, but not lacking in elegance, accentuating the woman's elegance. Moreover, she looked like she was only 27 or 28 years old. If she were in the secular world, she would definitely be a beautiful young woman who would cause one's imagination to run wild. The woman holding Teacher Rulin's arm was the president of the Calligraphy and Painting Association, Jiang Xiaoyu. She was also a beautiful woman with a graceful temperament and charming eyebrows. She was quick-witted and elegant, quite moving. Ling Feng and Ao Qian stared straight at her. Tang Hu, the gigolo, looked as if he had lost his soul as he stared straight at Teacher Rulin. Xian Yunshin's gaze wandered between the two of them, revealing his amazement. Morong Xianhua. The birdman's eyes were full of vigor, and the corners of his mouth curled up into an arrogant smile. He nodded slightly at Teacher Rulin and Jiang Xiaoyu. The only person who could be considered normal was Fatty. After all, Fatty had seen all kinds of beauties. Moreover, these two women, in terms of appearance and temperament, Si Xian was not inferior to them at all. There was no possibility of her stunning Chan Hao, only a frown. The reason was very simple. If a woman praised the enemy, wouldn't she also belittle Fatty? Young Master Li Yuan wrote equally well. It can be said to be amazing and unique. Such a style is rare in the great world of C&D. You don't have to pay attention to what young Master Tang said just now. Success will come naturally. As your cultivation deepens, the auxiliary skills and forms of the side branches will naturally evolve into formless and formless. You win with the intent of the brush. Just let nature take its course. You are very young, but to have such a level, you can't be described as a natural talent in calligraphy and painting. It should be said that you are a natural talent in calligraphy and painting. Fatty was stunned. She actually praised him? How should I address you, fairy sister? Fatty returned to normal after being stunned for a moment. Although he heard the surrounding cultivators addressing the beautiful woman, he still covered his mouth with honey and cupped his fists and asked. Fatty's thoughts were very simple. He would not pay for it even if he died. Teacher Rulin. Fatty clearly heard that the gigolo Tang who had just said that he was here for Rulin. Chunhao originally thought that Teacher Rulin should be a woman, but he didn't expect her to be a married woman. It could only be said that the gigolo Tang whose taste was a little heavy. But it didn't matter. Fatty didn't care, as long as he could discuss this arrogant guy. How could Fatty let go of such an opportunity? Fairy sister? Young Masterly. Fairy sister, just call me Fatty. Young Master, I can't take it. Fatty waved his hand and said straightforwardly. Rulin was slightly stunned, but immediately smiled and said, That's fine. Little Fatty, you can call me Teacher Rulin, but not elder sister. I am 100 times, no, 1,000 times older than you. Weight is not a matter of distance. and age is not a problem. Teacher Rulin has a face that can outshine the moon and shame the flowers, a beauty that can captivate fish and beasts, like an orchid in an empty valley, elegant and refined. You are a fairy sister who has descended to the mortal world. Fatty naturally has to address Teacher Rulin as elder sister goddess. Fatty was full of praises. Chapter 1246. You little fatty, do as you please, Rulin said with a smile. She was in a good mood. She had met many people who praised her in public, but this was the first time she had met someone who was as direct as little fatty. More importantly, Rulin liked the phrase, orchid in an empty valley, elegant and refined very much. Yes, fairy sister. Wait a moment. Whoosh. Just as everyone was staring at each other in admiration of Fatty's courage, eloquence, and flattery, Fatty suddenly spoke up. At the same time, he waved his hand and drew a set of painting tools to his side. Little Fatty, you want to paint me? Ruelin's interest was immediately piqued as she stared at Fatty with great interest. Sister, I'm a natural-born talent in painting and painting. Copying won't show my specialty. Don't worry, it'll be quick. After the Fatty finished speaking with a harmless smile on his face, his beady eyes shone brightly. He stared deeply at Miss Rulin for a full 10 seconds before closing his eyes. His entire being became solemn and dignified, as if he wanted to imprint Miss Rulin's appearance in his mind. After another 10 seconds, the Fatty abruptly opened his eyes. He picked up the brush, dipped it in the paint, and began writing in one go. There was no aura of supernatural powers or laws, nor was there any use of energy. At this moment, Fatty gave everyone the feeling that he had blended into the world and was immersed in the art of painting. The brushes alternated between Fatty's hands, and Ruelin's figure was born on the Chien paper bit by bit through Fatty's brushes. It was as if there was a three-dimensional effect. Even though he had not completed the most important part, the face, the experts could tell that Fatty's painting skills were also on a different level. He could definitely be described as a natural-born talent in painting whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The brush moved extremely smoothly. Fatty's expression was focused as he began to paint the facial features. The surrounding cultivators stared at him with rapt attention. Among them, the painting experts were so excited that they trembled slightly. No matter how they looked at it, this was going to be a top-notch portrait, especially since the person he painted was a famous person in the world of painting and calligraphy. The facial features and expressions were vivid and lifelike. Fatty left the most difficult part, the eyes, for last. When everything was done and only the eyes were left, Fatty suddenly paused. For the first time since he started painting, he raised his head to look at Miss Rulin. Looked straight in the eyes. Ruolan smiled and looked at Chen Hao. She did not avoid his gaze at all. She was also looking forward to seeing what would happen after little Fatty's work was completed. By now, Ruolan was certain that the little Fatty's calligraphy and painting were the same. They both had their own distinct characteristics. Other than the lack of time and accumulation, he had almost reached a state of perfection. Little Fatty's eyes, however, after looking at him for 3 seconds, Ruolan was slightly surprised. The little Fatty's pitch-black eyes were as vast and boundless as the starry sky, causing Ruolan's heart to feel as if it had been plunged into an endless vortex. Swoosh! It was also at this moment that Fatty lowered his head. Both of his hands moved at the same time, and the 2 brushes began to descend at the same time. Wong! Walla! Ah! So beautiful! So real! This, is she alive? All the cultivators present widened their eyes in shock. They were not surprised by Fatty's ability to draw left and right. That was not rare. Instead, they were surprised by the subtle changes that took place after the 2 eyes were completed. Like an orchid in an empty valley, an elegant and refined temperament was released clearly, causing the painting to become vivid as if it had come to life. Awesome. Awesome. Fat bro, my dear brother, my idol. I'm ashamed. I actually thought that Fat bro was bragging. I didn't expect that his attainments in calligraphy and painting were actually so awesome. Ao Qian praised inwardly, almost bowing down in worship. F*CK. That damn fatty. I don't believe that I can't beat him. Rub, rub, rub. In the International Musicians Association, I'm definitely invincible. Ling Feng widened his eyes in pain. Si Xian, on the other hand, was smiling. She didn't reveal any strange expression. Although she knew that the shameless fatty was obviously angering someone and taking liberties with a beauty, she didn't feel too much about it. After all, the current fatty was already much better than the killing god Shun Hao back then. Could it be that he didn't let Chen Shui and the others have a few more Dao companions? Shui Fian's face was still cold, and no emotions could be seen. Su Tao, Yin Su Su, and the others from the Carnage Battle team were naturally as stunned as Ao Qian. At this time, Tang Hu clenched his fists tightly, and blue veins appeared on his delicate face. "I'm here for Rulin," was announced by him in public. Who didn't know that? But the shameless fatty called Rulin fairy sister and praised her in public. After all, that was the truth. In Tang Hu's eyes, Rulin was the most beautiful woman in the world. No words could describe her. But the little fatty actually dared to draw Teacher Rulin. It was fine to draw, but his drawing was so damn good. It was fine, but he actually surprised Teacher Rulin. But he, Tang Hu, was the head of the 4 great talents. Naturally, he had to care about his image and could not fly into a rage at this time. Morong Qianhua looked at Fatty's gaze. On the surface, there was no change, but in his heart, there was a trace of seriousness. Although this was only in calligraphy and painting and not in combat talent, it could also reflect Fatty's abnormality from his side. This would be a difficult opponent, although Fatty was still a level lower than him. If Fatty caught up, Morong Qianhua had no confidence in who would win. "Fatty, sister, wait a little longer." Rulin couldn't help but say when Fatty stared at the completed painting for a long time. But she was interrupted by Fatty as soon as she opened her mouth. It was also at this time that Fatty waved his brush. There is a beauty in Dahua, peerless and independent. With a glance, she could topple a city. With another glance, she could topple a country. Li Yuan. When Fatty's brush added a famous sentence that was widely spread on Earth in small semi-cursive characters on the upper right side of the painting, Rulin and the surrounding cultivators all murmured. Their expressions became intoxicated, and there was endless aftertaste. Good words. Good words. Perfect work. Finally, someone shouted excitedly. "Pa!" Chen Hao took out a seal from somewhere and stamped it below the signature. "Fairy sister, this is for you." He. Fatty picked up the painting with a silly smile and handed it to Rulin. Using the painting as a cover, Fatty's gaze looked at Tang Hu, who was showing off in front of him, and returned it with a he. "Fatty, don't use the word fairy. It'll make people laugh. Call me Sister Rulin. This is the best gift I've received." "Thank you," Rulin said with a smile, took it gently, and stared at Fatty. "Fatty, as the president of the Calligraphy and Painting Association, invite you to be a guest teacher of the Calligraphy and Painting Association. You can come to our Calligraphy and Painting Association at any time and enjoy all the benefits of the association." Chapter 1247. The words of Jiang Xiaoyu, the president of the Painting and Calligraphy Association, shocked the surrounding cultivators. How could ordinary people have the right to be a guest teacher? To any cultivator, this was an unparalleled honor and something that would bring them face. Ling Feng, Ao, Qian, Su Tao, and the others all looked at Fatty with envy, jealousy, and hatred, not to mention the others. Anyone would agree to such a good thing. However, Fatty was stunned for a moment before he asked, "Beauty, what are the conditions?" "You just need to participate in the important activities of the association. Other than that, there are no other conditions. You won't be restricted from joining other associations. You're a guest teacher." President Jiang Xiaoyu seemed to know about Fatty's ambition and said what was on Fatty's mind. "That's great. Fatty will naturally obey the invitation of a beauty. That's good. Teacher Fatty, please give me your guidance and exchange ideas in the future. The Painting and Calligraphy Association welcomes you at any time, Jiang Xiaoyu said with a smile. Without waiting for Chen Hao's reply, she looked at Tang Hu, and her eyes became even brighter. Her pretty face even blushed. She said, "Young Master Tang, Xiaoyu has heard a lot about you. It's an honor to meet you today. Your painting and calligraphy works are often studied by Xiaoyu and the members of the association. Are you willing to be a guest teacher of the Painting and Calligraphy Association?" "Miss Xiaoyu, you're too polite. I'm most willing to contribute to spreading the art of painting and calligraphy. However, I won't be a guest teacher. Pardon me for being blunt, but the position of president of any association is taken up by the capable. The Painting and Calligraphy Association is no exception, right?" Tang Hu said in a deep voice. This guy had a delicate appearance. Even when he was acting cool, he gave off a good impression. However, at this moment, his expression was obviously very cold and arrogant. Especially when he looked at Jiang Xiaoyu. There was a faint disdain in his eyes. There was no helping it. This guy was so angry that he suffered internal injuries. Putting aside the fact that Fatty was in the limelight, he had even one teacher rule in his favor. This already made him very unhappy. However, Jiang Xiaoyu actually invited Fatty to be a guest teacher of the Painting and Calligraphy Association. This made him completely furious. Previously, he had said in public that he wanted to take down the Painting and Calligraphy Association and stop Fatty from entering the association. Since Jiang Xiaoyu was here, how could the vice president not have reported it? Therefore, when he saw that the president was a delicate woman, he, who didn't want to be too direct, decided to speak directly. Of course, only those who are capable. Jiang Xiaoyu was slightly taken aback. She looked a little disappointed. For a long time, Tang Hu, the leader of the Four Great Talents, had been her idol. This was the first time she had seen him in person. Whether or not he was disguised by the Tang family's ancient disguise technique, his appearance still made her heart tremble. She deliberately talked to the Fatty, first to adjust her nervous and excited mood before talking to Tang Hu. Even so, she was still a little nervous. But he didn't expect that the beloved daughter of heaven would be treated so coldly by her idol. "Young Master Tang, do you wish to be the president of the Painting and Calligraphy Association?" Ruolan frowned slightly and asked as she looked at Tang Hu. "Teacher Ruolin." "Yes." Ruolin's sudden interruption caused Tang Hu to be slightly stunned. He understood that he was a little impulsive, but after looking at the goddess in his heart, Tang Hu still said firmly, becoming the president of the Painting and Calligraphy Association meant that he would have more opportunities to interact with Teacher Ruolin. This was because Teacher Ruolin, the #1 painter in Dahua Academy, was the teacher in charge of the Painting and Calligraphy Association. This was one of the reasons. Secondly, if he became the president of the Painting and Calligraphy Association, he would have the final say in all the activities of the association. Fatty as a guest teacher? "It's cooler over there. Go away." "Young Master Tang, I'll let you." Jiang Xiaoyu adjusted her mood after a short period of disappointment. She looked at Tang Hu again and said directly, "Xiaoyu." Ruolan pulled Jiang Xiaoyu's hand and said, "Are you confused? The president of the association isn't something that you can give up just because you want to. Only those who are capable can take up the position. There's also a time limit. Similarly, those who are capable have to be recognized by the members. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a mess? Young Master Tang, if you really want to, then join the association. During the 100-year election, your chances should be very high. Students of the academy will make an exception for guest teachers. You have the right to compete too." "All right, since that's the case, then I'll be a guest teacher for the time being. Teacher Ruolin, I hope that we can have an exchange when we have time." Of course, after the new student recruitment this time, the Painting and Calligraphy Association will have an exchange meeting. Teacher will participate. Ruolan smiled. She didn't hide anything from Tang Hu. On the contrary, she looked at Tang Hu with eyes full of admiration. However, this kind of admiration made Tang Hu feel even more depressed. no matter how he looked at it. It was like an elder's gaze of encouragement for a little brat. This wasn't what he wanted. Xiaoyu, let's go. Little fatty, during the exchange meeting, I'll give you a gift in return. You have to go. Oh, right, the president just gave an order. In the future, any disciple who is in the top 10 will be able to join any association unconditionally. There won't be any restrictions on repeatedly joining. Teacher Rulin pulled Jiang Xiaoyu, who was a little disappointed, and rose into the air. What made Fatty show an extremely exaggerated expression of being overwhelmed by favor was that Teacher Rulin didn't conceal what she said to Fatty through telepathy. TSK, TSK, TSK. A gift in return. Ah, the top 10 aren't restricted? That's great. This way a multi-talented genius like me can freely perform. Ao Qian said. Everyone was equally surprised. Could the president have given this order because of Fatty, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, Morong Qianhua, and the others? This was an unprecedented change. After all, the major associations restricted repeated joining because they considered a person's energy. No matter how strong one's talent was, any association involved a large amount of time and energy. There were specializations in each field, and it wasn't a good thing to have too many miscellaneous things. However, now, disciples who were in the top 10 could join repeatedly. Big brother, second brother, let's all join. Of course, that clown is so arrogant. Let's all join. With us 3 brothers together. Who can steal our providence? Third brother, you also have times when you're impulsive. Fortunately, Teacher Rulin didn't show anything. Big brother, I can't help it. This fatty, I'll definitely teach him a lesson. Making an exception, right? Let's join. Fatty, Si Xian, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Xue Fian were all in the top 10. Although Si Xian's assessment results weren't good, her S-grade talent was more impressive than any other assessment results. Coupled with Fatty's monstrous cultivation partner, it was natural that exceptions would be made. Su Tao, Yin Su Su, and the others could only be envious. Chapter 1248. 2 hours later, the 2 opposing groups had completed their registration. Although Tang Hu's limelight was stolen by Fatty in the Painting and Calligraphy Association, he was still warmly welcomed in the International Musicians Association. Murong Qianhua and Xin Yuanchen were even more popular in the Ancient Martial Arts Association, Science and Technology Association, Spell Association, and other associations. They were much more popular than Fatty and the others. This was the reality. Captain Starlight, the genius of the Immortal Emperor's First Academy, and the leader of the 4 great talents of Dahua. The 3 of them could be said to be unparalleled existences. They were definitely not something that Fatty, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian could compare to, at least for the time being. The compulsory courses are Origin of Tao, 10 Essentials of Dahua, Overview of the 3,000 Great Tao, True Explanation of Sword Tao, True Explanation of Saber Tao, Theory of Finger Fists, Palm and Leg Techniques, Analysis and Stimulation of Supernatural Abilities, and Theory of Yin and Yang. There are a total of 8 courses. 3 days at the beginning of each month, 3 days in the middle of the month, and 2 days at the end of the month. Each course lasts 120 days. It will take 10 years to finish it. Yes, 10 years of basic courses. Every academy is basically the same. Even the compulsory courses are exactly the same. The only difference is the teacher. Of course, different teachers will have different effects on the same subject. Let's hurry up and choose a teacher. After Chun Hao and the others stepped into the Daoist Hall of the Daoist Academy of Dahua, the curriculum for the newcomers had been announced on the pagoda monument. There were a total of 8 compulsory courses. The time, location, and corresponding teachers for each course were clear. There were basically 3 or 4 teachers teaching each course. The characteristics of each teacher were introduced in detail. Cultivators could choose the teacher that was more beneficial to them based on their own characteristics. The teachers of the same subject are arranged to teach on the same day. This is good. We don't have to worry about the time. We can choose whichever teacher we like. It won't affect us at all. The only one we need to consider is sister-in-law Chun Si. Su Tao said. The 8 courses that Si Xian needed to take were exactly the same as Chun Hao and the others. However, she was in the Grand Miss Supremacy Realms training hall. Her class time was completely different from that of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Is there need to be so exaggerated? The basic courses are only 10 years long, and the schedule is so tight. How would you have time to go out and do missions? Chanao said, Cough, cough. Fatty bro, you haven't entered the immortal world yet, so you might not know. The space-time laws in the immortal world are 100 times more powerful than the outside world. 1 day in the outside world is 100 days in the immortal world. Therefore, it's best for us to work together as a team. Otherwise, it'll be inconvenient for us to move as a team in the immortal realm. 100 times the space-time laws. Chun Hao said in surprise. And this is just the basic space-time laws of the immortal world. If you have enough money, you can even enter a space-time law that is 1,000 times stronger. The space of the immortal realm can be said to be omnipotent, so powerful. Of course, legend has it that the space of the immortal world is the only path to the immortal world, and the path to becoming an immortal emperor is also located there. When I heard this before, I was very puzzled. The immortal world is clearly a virtual world. How can it be a real path to becoming an immortal emperor? Hee, fatty bro, your doubts are the same as ours in the past. The celestial realm has existed since time immemorial. Logically speaking, you would know that you are in the celestial realm after entering the celestial realm helmet. However, it feels better and more real than reality. Whether it's virtual or real, it's impossible to determine. A powerful figure once said, form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from form. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. It's used to describe the relationship between the immortal world and the great world of CND. Truth and falsehood, falsehood and truth all depend on various conditions. Sometimes, truth can become falsehood. Falsehood and truth can become reality. Legend has it that when you step into the immortal emperor realm, the cultivator can become one with both body and spirit and travel between the immortal world and the great world of CND. As for us, we can only enter the immortal world with our divine thoughts. That's right. Also, if you obtain the right to step onto the path of becoming an immortal emperor, you can also become one with both body and spirit when you step onto the path of becoming an immortal emperor. That's truly entering the path. Yes, but the path of becoming an immortal emperor is easier said than done. Fatty bro, brother phone, brother monkey, Miss Shui, sister-in-law Chin Si, you may still have hope, but the few of us basically have no hope. I, your brother, will definitely step onto the path of becoming an immortal emperor. Ling Feng said proudly. Haha, it depends on who it is. Today's brothers, perhaps it's inevitable that we'll fight on the path of becoming an immortal. Ao Qian said. That's after we defeat all our enemies. Otherwise, there's no need for us to form a team. Shui Fian, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up. Of course. However, don't worry. We're brothers and sisters. I won't be as ruthless as a certain someone. One victory and one defeat is enough. Ling Feng said, the path of becoming an immortal emperor. Perhaps this is the reason? Chen Hao thought to himself. Just like Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Shui Fian, his blood boiled slightly when he talked about the path of becoming an immortal emperor. That was the peak of the path of cultivation, the ultimate goal of all cultivators. Unfortunately, since ancient times, no one had ever seen through it. For hundreds of millions of years, the great world of CND, and even the other vast thousand worlds, had only given birth to one quasi-emperor, the Star River King. Moreover, it was just a rumor. Whether it was true or not had not been confirmed. How could becoming an immortal emperor be easy? We're the same. At present, our obstacles may be Murong Qianhua, Xin Yuanshan, and Tang Hu. Ao Qian said. It should be, Shui Fian said again. A touch of seriousness appeared between her eyebrows. Obviously, Murong Qianhua and the other two posed a great threat to her. The Great Era is coming, and geniuses are coming out in large numbers. Damn, I really didn't expect a first-class school to be so powerful. Ling Feng said, "It's normal. Unpredictable fate and ethereal fate will never leave geniuses lonely. The current situation of the Dahua School is not like that of every first-class school. Even the top schools are not necessarily like this." Xue Fian said, "That makes sense. It seems that we have a great chance, haha." Ao Qian laughed. Cough, cough. Hebo is watching the sea. A frog in the well is peering into the sky. It turns out that your goal from the beginning was the path of becoming an immortal emperor. Su Tao and the others were a little embarrassed. Although they knew that these guys were abnormal, when they heard that their goal was the legendary path of becoming an immortal emperor, they were still a little surprised. That was something that they only dared to dream of, but it was basically impossible to achieve. Those who were qualified to enter the path of becoming an immortal emperor were all top geniuses in the great world of CND. Although they were not bad, they were still a few streets away from the top geniuses. Chapter 1249. For hours later, they finished all the lessons. Chunhao and Si Xian received the Spirit Realm helmets to enter the immortal world for free, but the price was an overdraft of 100 contribution points. The name was also Spirit Realm Helmet, and the outline was exactly the same. However, the aura released by the Spirit Realm Helmet of the Second World of Vast Universe System and the runes engraved on its surface were simply not enough. The biggest difference was that the Spirit Realm Helmet of the Second World had to be taken out and worn every time one entered the Second World and released their aura. On the other hand, the Spirit Realm Helmet of the Immortal World only needed to be worn for the first time, and it would be integrated into the cultivator's sea of consciousness. It would be impossible to take it out as if it had become a part of the mind. In the great world of CND, one only needed one's consciousness to enter the immortal world space at any time. Another difference was that the cultivator's consciousness could not exist in both the immortal world space and the great world of CND at the same time. After entering the immortal world space, the physical body in the great world of CND would lose all consciousness. To put it bluntly, the cultivator would be a living corpse without any perception of the surrounding situation. However, when faced with an aura that threatened the survival of the physical body, the cultivator could automatically jump out of the immortal world space and return to their body and soul. CC, I'm going in? Go in. I'm really going in. Damn, fatty, just go in. Did I say you couldn't go in? I still have to go in. In the cultivation room of the temporary palace, Fatty and Si Xian, who had returned from all the errands, could not wait to sacrifice their blood to the Spirit Realm Helmet of the immortal world space. When the preparations were done and they were about to enter, Fatty looked at Si Xian vulgarly and asked again and again, "Can you have a sense of humor? What sense of humor? What sense of humor is there in your words?" "I'm going in." "Buzz." Fatty glared at Si Xian, and his vulgar eyes suddenly looked down, and then he activated the Spirit Realm Helmet. In an instant, a bright immortal light bloomed from the Spirit Realm Helmet and flew to Chunhao's head before slowly descending. "Damn, Fatty, you're shameless. Rogue." After being reminded by the Fatty's wretched eyes, Si Xian's face immediately turned red. At the same time, she despised the Fatty to the extreme. How could a person be so wretched and shameless? Unfortunately, Fatty had already activated the Soul Realm Helmet, so Si Xian could only bear with it. When the Spirit Crystal Helmets formed a faint layer of light, they completely disappeared and enveloped Chun Hao and Si Xian's bodies. This was the first time Chun Hao and Si Xian had stepped into the legendary immortal world. Chun Hao, congratulations on joining the immortal realm. Chun Hao felt that his soul had been completely removed from his body. He couldn't even separate a wisp of his divine sense and entered the space of the immortal world. He was in a hazy state, drifting in a trance for a breath of time. Suddenly, heavenly music rang in his ears. At the same time, a pleasant voice drifted into his ears, making Chun Hao quiver. Chun Hao, although he had expected that entering the immortal world would mean that his real information would be leaked, he didn't expect it to come so quickly. As soon as he entered, his name was called. Chun Hao hurriedly opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the voice. Unfortunately, he could only hear the voice and not see the person. He could only vaguely see the majestic immortal palace floating above the auspicious clouds. Chun Hao, the peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, the ancient chaos boundless galaxy. Earth. Chun Hao Li Yuan. Fusion, mutation. The voice sounded out once more. At the start, it was normal, but after it finished speaking about the vast universe galaxy, its voice became faintly discernible and intermittent. The words that came out caused Chun Hao's eyes to widen in shock. At the same time, he became extremely vigilant. He really didn't expect that the immortal world could even dig out his past and present life from his mind. He couldn't help but be shocked. After all, Chun Hao wasn't stupid. Before he met the little nurse Lu Hui, Chun Hao didn't think that he was very powerful. He was just a cultivator who advanced step by relying on his own fortuitous encounters and bitter cultivation. At most, he had a powerful father and a mysterious old god before that. However, after meeting the reincarnated immortal Emperor Lu Hui and conquering her, even if Chun Hao was an idiot, he knew that he wasn't as simple as he seemed. Immortal emperors, especially female immortal emperors, had powerful restrictions on their emotions, even if they were reincarnated as the immortal Emperor Lu Hui. How could she be conquered by an ordinary person? Elon speculated that Chun Hao wasn't inferior to immortal emperors, or even stronger than them. Chun Hao couldn't help but believe it. However, Chun Hao had always rejected this innate condition of being born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He once told his woman that the past was the past, and the future was unpredictable. His past and present lives had nothing to do with him. He only wanted this life. Therefore, he had never thought of awakening himself, nor did he try to awaken himself. He wanted to rely on his own ability to cultivate step by step, moving forward step by step, and always let himself in this life be the absolute ruler. However, the truth was still the truth. Even though Chun Hao did not sense anything, there was a powerful seal and a magic treasure above the level of true immortals in his mind. This had been proven many times. No one could peek into all the secrets hidden in his mind. But now, he had just entered the immortal world. To be exact, the procedures hadn't been completed yet. His character hadn't been created, and he hadn't been born, but the mainframe had already seen through him. It even revealed Chun Hao's biggest secret. How powerful was the mainframe of the immortal world? It was unimaginable. If he had known that the immortal world wasn't controlled by anyone in the great world of CND, Chun Hao would have left the immortal world immediately and then fled the great world of CND with Si Xian as fast as he could. Do you need to disguise yourself to enter? The voice, which had become faintly discernible, suddenly became real again, as if it was right next to his ear. It reached Chun Hao's ears. Yes. Name. Li Yuan. Do you need to disguise yourself? You can change the ultimate form of the Great Change technique at will. In the immortal world, not many people can see through you. This is much better than me helping you disguise yourself. It's beneficial for you to gather more luck in the immortal world. There's such a thing? That's good. I don't need to disguise myself. I'll do it myself. Chun Hao was a little stunned, and then he said immediately. Although all his secrets had been discovered, Chun Hao still didn't expect the NPC to be so human-like. Chun Hao activated the Heart Sutra, and his entire person instantly turned into the appearance of a fatty. What Chun Hao didn't know was that not everyone could meet such a human-like NPC like him. All right, if there's anything you don't understand, you can call me at any time. Any question, as long as it's within my ability, I can answer it for you. Are you a real person or an NPC from the system's intelligent brain? Real is fake, fake is real. Chapter 1250. F***CK. Chen Hao hated this kind of ambiguous answer the most. However, he had misgivings in his heart, so he didn't dare to show it. He continued to ask, "How can I obtain the qualifications to enter the path of the immortal emperor?" The first condition is to advance to the seventh heaven of the true immortal realm, starting from the Daluo Golden Wonderland, within 100,000 years in the outside world. The second condition is that your team must reach the level SSS of the true immortal realm within the same time frame. Once these two conditions are met, you will obtain the right to enter the path of the immortal emperor. Advance to the seventh heaven of the true immortal realm within 100,000 years. Chen Hao was shocked. Although he knew that the conditions were harsh and was mentally prepared, he was still surprised when he heard it now. Chen Hao had no concept of time when it came to the advancement of realms. After experiencing the changes in space-time between the primordial chaos world and the primordial chaos world, he couldn't even give a specific number to his age. Disregarding the difference in space-time laws, he wasn't even 20,000 years old. With 80,000 years left, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break through the primordial chaos realm and step into the seventh heavens of the true immortal realm. However, Chen Hao knew that it was not as simple as he thought. After all, ever since he stepped into the great world of CND, the true immortals he saw were very old in age, but not many of them exceeded the seventh heaven of the true immortal realm. Back then, the Thunder Dragon King was only a fourth heaven of the true immortal realm. From this, it could be seen that in the 9 heavens of the true immortal realm, each advancement must be very difficult. The seventh heaven was undoubtedly like the seventh level of the various realms. It was definitely a watershed. Don't worry, you come from Earth, and you have a 1 in 10,000 fusion soul. Not only that, you have a rare variant soul. I can't be sure about this in the great world, but in the blessed immortal realm, 100,000 years is enough for you to advance from the Daluo Golden Wonderland to the seventh heaven of the true immortal realm. However, let me remind you that the advancement of realms in the outside world will be isolated from the advancement in the immortal realm. The Yang spirit and Yin spirit cannot be merged. When they merge, you will enter the path of the immortal emperor. Sun God, Yin God, what's in your mind isn't right, and you've just entered the academy, so it's not strange that you don't understand. Wait until you've learned the Yin-Yang theory of souls, then you'll naturally understand. The melodious voice explained to Chen Hao. Chen Hao did have some information about the Yang spirit and the Yin spirit. He also had a certain concept. They came from the two extreme Dao inheritances in the primal mystic realm. What Coil Dragon obtained was the physical body that became the Yang spirit. Chun Ling and Li Yang, who had the celestial spirit body, became the Yin spirit through their souls. However, that was all in theory. Furthermore, the two extreme Dao mighty figures were unable to realize it. Yin and Yang theory of the soul. Could it be that the soul can become the Yin and Yang deities? Chen Hao thought to himself. Previously, when he had chosen the required courses, he had indeed chosen the Yin-Yang theory of souls. Chen Hao, are you sure that your goal is the immortal emperor path? While Chen Hao was deep in thought, the melodious voice asked again. Yes. All right, then you'll seal the beginning realm of the Daluo Golden Wonderland to the early stage. Any other questions? Do cultivators in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm still have a chance to embark on the immortal emperor path? Chen Hao could not help but ask when he thought of Si Xian and his women and brothers and sisters in the ancient chaos boundless world. Of course, just seal the beginning realm. While Chen Hao kept asking questions, on the other side, Si Xian had already entered the world of the immortal world. Si Xian had never met an NPC as humane as Chen Hao. The only similarity was that she had heard the melodious voice. However, all she had to do was make the most basic choice after hearing the other party's explanation. Before entering, Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and the others had told Si Xian and Chen Hao in advance that if their goal was to embark on the immortal emperor path, they would start from the early stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Si Xian had only made this choice. Everything else was based on her current pseudonym. However, When Xian appeared in the immortal world, she sized up her surroundings with a surprised expression and sensed the aura that filled the world. Strange, it's clearly my first time here. Why do I have such a familiar feeling? It's like, buzz, 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 buzz. Just when Chun Hao felt that he had no more questions to ask for the time being, a brilliant, immortal light enveloped him. Immediately after, Chun Hao clearly felt that space-time was constantly twisting and the aura was rapidly changing. Even the physical body formed by the soul for the time being, in the minds of Chun Hao and all the other cultivators, it was the self derived from a mind in the immortal world, felt strongly stretched and distorted. Chun Hao was a little surprised by this situation. Wasn't it just entering the immortal world and being born in some novice village or in the wilderness? Why did it take so long and experience such terrifying changes in space-time? Although Chun Hao had entered the immortal world for the first time and did not have much information before, he still felt that something was wrong. Chi! The void split open. After what felt like 10 minutes, Chun Hao finally stopped shuttling and appeared in the immortal world. It can't be right. Chun Hao was still in the void when he exclaimed in surprise. Almost instantly, his eyes widened like Xian's. However, unlike Xian, Chun Hao was certain before he landed. How could it be so similar? Could it be Earth? Chun Hao was really stunned. As a fanatic about Earth, he was very clear about the shape of Earth. At this moment, he, whose realm was sealed in the early stages of the Dayuo Golden Wonderland, could see half of the appearance of the small planet that was rapidly approaching the novice village at a glance. The azure surface and the distribution of continental plates, although slightly different, were more or less the same. If it was just a planet, Chun Hao might have thought it was a coincidence. However, not far from the azure planet, the moon that was orbiting like a satellite was also there, so it should not be a coincidence. How is this possible? Didn't they say that the novice village also appeared in the true martial city of Planet Majestic? How could it be on Earth? Before Chun Hao and Xian entered the immortal world, Ao Guang, Su Tao, and the others had said that he and Xian would appear in the true martial city. All the outsiders were born in the city where they first appeared in the immortal Emperor's boundless world. But now, Chun Hao had appeared on Earth. This isn't Earth, Chun Hao murmured when he landed on a towering mountain peak and sensed the aura between heaven and earth. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth here was extremely dense. As Ao Guang and the others had said, the cultivation conditions here were definitely 10 times or even 100 times better than those in the great world of C&D. Therefore, this couldn't be Earth. The real Earth was already in the age of chaos, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had disappeared. It's also considered Earth. Other outsiders from the greater thousand worlds were born in the cities of the great world of C&D for the first time, but I've created a virtual perfect Earth. What does this mean? That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.